All right, there we go. The title here is Guerrilla Marketing, Incredible Impact Small Spend Strategies for Real Estate Agents. Welcome to today's live training, guys. In the next 90 minutes, you are going to walk away with 3 plug-and-play, step-by-step strategies you can use right now to generate leads, both buyer and seller leads, on literally less than $200 a month if you had to stretch it that bad. For me, I was able to pull it off for less than $300 a month, okay? You're also going to have 3 change in mindset principles, just kind of paradigm shifts that I think are super, super key, super critical. I'm going to give you guys a step-by-step, simple 3-part formula that you can use in making every marketing decision going forward. And then also I'm going to show you guys the back-end lead generation numbers from 3 of the top 100 agents in the U.S. as rated by the Wall Street Journal. Okay, we got a few other things throughout the webinar, but those are going to be kind of the 4 big things that you get out of the webinar today. I'm going to approach it sandwich style today. So we've gotten a lot of feedback from you guys. You guys love our trainings, but sometimes you feel like we either go too long on strategies or we go too long on philosophy. So today we're going to actually mix and match. I'm going to give you like a concept, then I'm going to give you a strategy. Then I'm going to give you a concept, then I'm going to give you a strategy, then I'm going to give you a concept, and then I'm going to give you a strategy. All right, so we're going to kind of sandwich it out and break it up and keep it flowing, and then maybe that'll actually kind of help everybody to follow along easier as well. I'm going to kind of flow through the concepts just to get through them fast. I think they're important, but we don't want to take up all the time on them. And then Gary and I are going to co-host and co-talk on the 3 specific strategies that you can use for plug and play. Okay, Gary, are you hearing me fine? Gary?
Yeah, I'm hearing you just
perfect.
Fine. Yeah.
Guys, for those of you on the call, can you please type in, just let me know that you're hearing me fine, and as long as everybody's hearing me fine, then we're going to go ahead and kick this off. Just go ahead and type into the chat box, guys. You can hear me fine. Awesome. Okay, got a few responses already come in. Okay, all good. Yes, good audio. Perfect. Sweet. All right, guys. Awesome. Perfect. All right. With that being said, I will periodically stop to read questions, but I will not be answering questions as you type them in, so please know that. Please type in all your questions, but I'll answer them throughout certain periods. I will not answer questions live, like as you type them in, simply because if we do that, every time we've done that, the webinars go for like 2 hours. So I will get to all your questions just in periodic stops throughout the webinar versus real time. But that being said, if you type in your question, don't think I'm not going to answer it if you don't hear me answering it right away. Just that's why we're doing it that way, right? So we can get through it for everybody. All right, with that, let's get ready to rumble. Okay, do you guys remember Moneyball, movie that came out a little while ago with Brad Pitt in it? I think it has a really, really, really wonderful lesson on marketing, and I want to kind of just throw this out there as a setup for the rest of today's webinar, okay? The Oakland Athletics, they have the 3rd lowest salary total that year in 2002, but they finished 1st in the American League West and set a record of winning 20 consecutive games, okay? Today's webinar topic is guerrilla marketing. So it's obviously doing the most you can with little resources. And I thought this would be a perfect example that we can all kind of understand and relate to is, the big league, baseball big leagues, and you've got a little guy, a small team. And if you look at the chart to the right, you can see their salary cap was right about $39 million compared to all the other teams, right? They're the 3rd lowest, and yet they set the record that year. And if you've not seen the movie Moneyball, I think you should watch it. It's a great, enjoyable movie. It's actually family friendly too. So just a really great story all around for everybody watching it. But anyway, so with this in mind, the way they did it, that was really, really interesting. If you haven't seen the movie, if you have, you know where I'm going with this. But the way they did it is they did it by tracking the right metrics. Okay. See, most teams, they track metrics. They track the statistics such as like stolen bases, runs batted in, batting averages, and those are all important. They are. But they're not as important or as telling as, for example, on-base percentage or slugging percentage, right? Like you can look at a guy, the average batting average of a player, And that is somewhat of that is one indicator of how good of a player that person is. But what's actually more important, the batting average or how often a person can get a walk? Because see, that doesn't come up in your batting average, but that's as good as getting, a single, right? So the whole movie takes you through this process of how they built this team with these they had this massive financial constraint. And so they approached to building the baseball team in a completely different way, looking at completely, looking at completely different metrics. And what they did with that was amazing. So anyways, go watch Moneyball. But keep this in mind throughout the webinar as we go today because, again, it's titled Guerrilla Marketing, and I want you to keep that in mind because today what we're going to show you is a much different perspective or concept of how you would look at your real estate business and what's actually super important to track, okay? What I want to communicate is that there's going to be 3 or 4 points throughout this webinar today where you see this slide. And every time you see this slide, it's an indicator that I'm going to share a concept with you that requires a mindset shift or change. Look, you don't have to agree with me. You don't have to do it today. I'm simply sharing with you guys my story on the process of how I went from doing 75 to 120 outbound prospecting calls a day, being just absolutely broke and completely tired and just worn out, to turning that all around and actually starting to create a lot of results for very little spend in a short period of time, okay? So every time you see this slide change, know that what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you what to do. I'm going to show you the different mindset that would be required to accept the strategy that I'm about to show you, okay? All right, with that, let me give you a comparison of most agents versus the top 2% of agents, okay? We actually have, Gary, is it 10 or 12 of the top 100 agents in the U.S. as rated by the Wall Street Journal as our clients right now?
Last year it was 10.
10, okay.
I'm not sure what, I think the numbers are coming out pretty soon. We may have.
Okay. Right, you're right. We might have a couple more now, right? Anyways, I just say that to you guys so that you don't think I'm pulling this data from just some arbitrary, random source. This is coming from people whose back-end numbers we see. Okay, for most agents, the metrics you focus on, just like with most baseball teams, right? And this is, again, I'm an agent, and when I was and before I did my marketing the way I do it now, these are the specific things that I would focus on too. What we're trained on, mainstream coaching, mainstream training, the things that we're trained to focus on is listing appointments set, listing appointments gone on, right? Listings taken, buyers pre-qualified, pre-qualified buyers met with, pre-qualified buyers showing, number of new leads, right? Those are kind of, give or take a few different ones. Those are plus minus a few of the different things. Though typically most agents, 80% of agents are focusing on 80% of the time, right? Because for us, those are the indicators of how well our business is doing. Top 2%, you know what they're focusing on? Number of first-time conversations. Okay? A very, very big stark difference. And again, keep the Moneyball example in mind as we go throughout this webinar because it's critical for you to keep that in mind as you see the rest of this. Why is that? Why is it that the top 2% of agents are focusing on first-time conversations while most of agents are focusing on all these other things? The reason is because first-time conversations are the common denominator to all the other metrics. And 74% of transactions close with the first agent that a buyer or seller actually talked with and connected to. This is according to the National Association of Realtors Guide to Real Estate Statistics, okay? And it is confirmed independently by our own software and lead generation systems, okay? So what that means, said a different way, bottom line is that 3 out of 4 transaction commissions go to the agent who is the first to connect with the prospect in a meaningful dialogue, okay? Now I'm going to pause right now to answer a few questions I've had come in. Can you also show what to do to generate a lot of business without any money as mentioned in the email? Yes, I'm going to be showing that. Will we receive a recorded webinar after this is over? Not immediately, but probably next week. What is the first-time conversation? Is it a first-time home buyer? First-time conversation is talking to a buyer or seller for the first time and that they're experiencing having a conversation with a real estate agent, okay? So again, the reason why is because it's the common denominator to all the other metrics. 74% of transactions close with the first agent that a buyer or seller actually talked with and connected to, which means that 3 out of 4 transaction commissions are going to the agent who is the first to connect with the prospect in a meaningful dialogue. Okay? So all of your marketing should be geared around this conversation or this question. Will it generate first-time conversations? Okay? It all has to be focused around this. This is exactly what all of my marketing is focused around. Okay? So now, with all that in mind, I'm going to give you the first strategy of 3 strategies that I'm going to give you today that I use to literally go from having only about $500 in my bank account. I was new to a city. I left Seattle. I went down to San Francisco. Just had a lot of political drama go wrong here with the brokerage that I was in. A lot of bad stuff happened, and I decided to leave and get away from it all. And I went down to San Francisco, just new, going down to California, wanted to be on the beach, wanted just to have a different life, was in a lot of pain and figured, what the heck do I have to lose? Went down there, and that's when I actually came across Gary Elwood and the ProQuest system. And I already had a background in sales and marketing, direct response marketing, but had kind of gotten away from that when I was doing real estate for 4 or 5 years because I was focused on just prospecting, outbound prospecting. So anyways, the first strategy that I used, and this is where I want Gary to start chiming in with me here, the first strategy that I used was actually using Craigslist, but in a way that you've never actually seen it done before, okay? So I'm going to show you 3 examples of ads that I would run on Craigslist, and I'm going to give you the results of what happened, okay? And you're going to be blown away. And you also see how this is not going to cost you anything but some time, okay? What I did was I went down to San Francisco, and then I kind of meandered out to an area called Pleasanton. It's kind of it's in the East Bay area, and that's where I kind of planted. And again, I had no book of business, I had barely any money, and I was sleeping under my desk in a sleeping bag because it was either rent an office space or rent an apartment, and I chose the office space. And for those of you guys who know how much rents are in the San Francisco area, you'll know what I mean when I say I could only choose one. This is one of 3 ads that I would run. What I started running is ads that had a pattern interrupt in the title. So if you look at the title itself, that's a pattern interrupt when somebody's scrolling through Craigslist. And then in the ad, I would just do some copywriting of describing the nice things about the home. No web link, no direct telephone number, nothing about me or the agent, nothing to push a lead away, but simply offering recorded info 24 hours a day, for them to call in for additional details and current pricing. Okay, here's another ad that I ran. Again, you see up at the top, it was San Francisco Bay Area, East Bay. This one was near wineries, home for sale. This is a unique ranch-style property located near town and near wineries. Again, very short, very simple, to the point, recorded info. Another one, price reduced, spacious home for sale. Recorded info. Again, very short blurb about the property. Now, here's what I want to walk you through specifically the things I did not do when I ran these ads on Craigslist and the things I did do. Okay, and what you're going to find throughout the 3 strategies that I'm going to give you today for generating leads like immediately right now today is there's more things you're supposed to not do than things you're supposed to do. Okay, it's actually rewiring bad training more than it is doing things. Because for those of you who are on the call today, I know from experience that most of the agents on our list have been in the business for a while, and also for those of you who show up on webinars and do trainings, you're usually a lot more proactive and harder working than the typical agent. So I know for a fact that for everybody on the call today, doing work isn't the issue. The issue is doing the right work, right? That can sometimes be the problem. I got a quick question that says, can we do this if we don't have any listings? Actually, yes, I have an answer to that very, very shortly. Just bear with me here. I have somebody who says hello as if they can't hear us. If somebody can't hear me, I'm sorry. It seems like there's only one place or one person who can't hear it. Okay, so the things I did not do with these ads that I ran on Craigslist, okay? I did not include the price. I did not include number of bedrooms. I did not include number of bathrooms. I did not include property address. I did not include many pictures. I only put in 2 to 4 pictures. I did not give a web link. I did not market my name. I did not use my personal telephone number. I didn't offer help or any services that made me sound like a desperate realtor chasing anyone. What I did do was write cozy copy, right? Just describing the home in a pleasant, nice way. If we go back, you've just found a spacious house for sale in Livermore. Price has been recently reduced, so it won't be on the market for long. Owner says sell. You will find the house partially updated, laminate floors, double-pane windows. It has a converted garage with its own bathroom. It has easy 580 freeway access and is close to shopping in downtown Livermore. See what I'm saying? The kitchen features an eat-in kitchen space, and there's a patio to enjoy the outdoors on. Cozy copywriting. I didn't give a bunch of data information. I only used an 800 number recorded info for call to action, and I let the strong intent, high probability buyers identify themselves. Okay, for those of you who have been on a webinar with me before, you know how much I hate wasting my time on leads who are just tire kickers or might be 2 years out, right? None of us have time to do that. Now, before I move to the next slide, I want to tell you 2 things. One, where I'm going to stop to answer questions is when I get to the end of every single strategy. So I've seen a few questions come in. I'm just going to stop at the end of every strategy to then answer those questions. The good questions are coming in. I see you guys typing them in. Just keep typing them in. Right now, before I continue, I want Gary to chime in because he's the one who actually kind of set me straight back into my direct response marketing roots, and he's the one that helped me roll out this strategy. So Gary, you have a lot more experience with this specific thing than I do because we've had a lot of agents use this. Talk a little bit about why this works compared to the way typical Craigslist ads are run and why they don't work as well as this. We talk about the short-circuiting of the sales, short-circuiting the auto-rejection a lot of prospects can go into with the way agents usually try to get a next step from them.
Well, what this does is it focuses the prospect on the path we want to take them down. It doesn't, typically you see agents put multiple calls to action. They'll put a web link and take them somewhere else. When we have a prospect's attention, our objective is to first get attention, obviously, which you're doing with the subtlety of that subject line and the way it's constructed. The reason we do things this way with no bedrooms, no baths, no square footage, no big 1-acre lots, any of that kind of descriptive information is because those are reasons for the prospect not to call. If you put 3-bedroom house and they're looking for a 4-bedroom house, they're not going to call. And really, we don't care whether they buy that house or another house. We just want to have a conversation with them. So we're focused on the objective of getting their attention, provoking interest, creating desire, and prompting action, the job of marketing. We want to take that Craigslist post and draw that high-intent, high-probability prospect out, and we want to guide them down a single path. We don't want to take them to a web page where they put in a name and an email address that's, losing value every day. We want to have a meaningful conversation with that prospect while they're in the moment and have questions and they're in a receptive state of mind. That's what this process does. It singles out those people and takes them down the path we want to take them. And we leverage curiosity. We utilize, like you said, the cozy copy is a curiosity-provoking approach. It creates warm mental images that elevate curiosity and bring the prospect forward. The rest of what agents are doing out there is the same. Well, essentially, everybody's following the follower. They're all doing the same things that everybody else is doing on Craigslist and wondering why it doesn't work. Well, gee, that's no mystery. You're getting swallowed up by the crowd. When the crowd goes one way, I love the way you put it, Andre. You always say, when the crowd zigs, you want to zag. And that's exactly what we're doing here. And this isn't an intuitive approach. This isn't a natural approach that you're naturally going to go, oh, I get it and want to do it that way. You're going to fall back into natural habits, just like you did out of the gate, Andre. The fact is, when you first started posting, we went through 2 or 3 critiquing processes to get you dialed in and on the mark, and then the very next day, you were showing property. And I can tell you for a fact, this strategy is extremely powerful. I've had agents come right out of the chute, first day of posting ads on Craigslist this way, the way we're going to show you, as Andre's already showed you, actually. I've had agents showing property the very next day. I've actually even had a single case where a gentleman borrowed listings from his brokerage, posted 3 properties before noon the day he signed up on our service, got three appointments that afternoon, showed 2 properties, and wrote a contract in less than 12 hours on the service using this approach. This thing is extremely effective. And, of course, you're living proof of it, Andre, and actually it's one of the reasons we're here today, because you got such a jolt out of this, and it took you so far, threw you into motion so quickly that you were obviously drawn to the whole approach because of what it was doing for you. But the key here is, cut through the clutter, take them down the path you want them to take them. We don't need to be information providers and just throwing information all over people out there. We want to take them down the path that we want to take them, and that's what this does.
And what I want to point out, too, is, guys, I was doing this in San Francisco area. This is the tech mecca of the world, right? Silicon Valley. People are still looking for homes on Craigslist, and they will still pick up the phone and call, right? A lot of people think, oh, do 800 number call to actions work anymore? Does Craigslist work anymore? You better believe it works if you're doing it the right way, right? If you're doing it the right way. Yeah, exactly. If you're doing direct response marketing.
Exactly. The marketing is what produces the response. The technology is just the path we guide the prospect through to create a meaningful first-time conversation. So, yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. And then what's going to happen? You hit on sometimes I think so fast that, it's coming out of my brain faster than it's coming out of my mouth. What I was going to say is that, guys, today what we're going to show you is the psychology of it and 3 different technologies. But the technology isn't what's as important as understanding the psychology behind marketing. Once you understand the psychology of direct response marketing, the technology that you use becomes, you can use any technology because you know how to deliver your message. And in a situation like this, you don't want somebody to not call you because they want a 4-bedroom and the property you're marketing is only 3 bedrooms. Right? Can't you as an agent find them a freaking 4-bedroom or a 3-bedroom, whatever it is that they want? Of course you can. So why should you shoot yourself in the foot and not get a phone call with a potentially strong intent, high probability buyer? The flip side, too, of this system is that instead of getting a bunch of clicks or a bunch of emails or something from people, who might not have no intention of buying, and even paying for them up front from like Zillow, Market Leader, or Trulia, you're getting the strong intent, high probability people who would actually pick up a phone and call to identify themselves, right? So it's all inbound. Anyways,
you're moving the best prospects to the front of the line.
Right, exactly. So where did I get listings then, right, if I didn't have any? Now, I want to give you guys a disclaimer before I share this. And Gary actually shared with you the safest way to do it, which is in your brokerage. Go talk to your broker. Go talk to 4 or 5 other agents in your broker. Go talk to all the agents in your brokerage and show them the Craigslist ads that you want to run, which are these, and we'll provide copies for you guys, but just these, and it'll be pretty simple, and you can just say, hey, let me market the home, and obviously if I can sell it faster for you, then that obviously sells it faster for you. Gary, you have also talked about how you've used this system, you've trained agents on this system, we've trained agents on this system where you can say, yeah, I'll market your home for you, and if I generate a buyer off of it, you'll also get a referral fee. Talk a little bit about that nuance before I nosedive into how I generated it.
That's sort of a court of last resort when borrowing inventory from other agents. Typically, if you go to other agents and you just present it as a win-win situation, hey, would you mind if I gave you some free internet marketing? Next question is, what do you mean? Well, what I'd like to do is borrow some of your listings to do some online postings on socials like Backpage, Craigslist, different things like that. It'll be in addition to everything you're doing, so it won't run in conflict to anything you're currently doing. And here's how we do it. Let me show you. And you just show them. And 3 out of 4 times, if you go in there and just present it as a win-win situation, which it is, it's just additional marketing. What's the listing agent want to do with their listing? They want to sell it. It's a win-win for everybody. So it really is a very easy approach to getting inventory from other agents to get their permission to go ahead and do this on Craigslist. And typically, that you don't need to offer up a referral fee, although as a court of last resort, let's say somebody's got some really killer inventory that you'd love to be posting on here because it's the ideal market, the ideal place you'd want to be working in more. It's one of those things where you can, as a court of last resort, you say, well, I'll tell you what, anybody I generate off this, if I close a transaction with them, I'll pay you a 10% bonus. How's that? And typically that tips the last remaining ones over the edge on this one because, again, the whole thing is purely a win-win situation you're presenting.
Exactly. Anyways, and the way I did it, guys, was a little bit more. So you just got to check with the MLS compliance of your local MLS. MLS to MLS is different. State to state is different. Where I got mine from was Trulia, and here's why. If it's on Trulia, the listing that means the listing agent clicked Internet Marketing OK. You know how when you guys upload the property into an MLS, it says, Internet Marketing, check for Internet Marketing, check for syndication, or check for blogging, depending on the different language of the MLSs. If they've done that, then what that means is that third-party platforms can promote it and syndicate it. That's where the whole feed comes from. That's where Trulia and Zillow pulled their properties from, right? So with that, the way I approach it is that you just can't say you're the listing agent. So if you notice in the Craigslist ad, nowhere did I say I was a listing agent. I was just promoting the property, okay? And what I did was, I'll show you the results that I got off of the first few that I posted, and it went so well that I created inventory for myself of 75 listings in 1 week. Again, I had nothing else to do. I was broke as a joke, and I was, and I needed money badly, and I went to, basically create a new future for myself. So I just spent the whole week and went on Trulia and found properties in Pleasanton area and the surrounding areas that I like Dublin, Livermore, and just started posting them on Craigslist, right? Because if they were already on Trulia, Internet Marketing was okay. I did generate a few calls from agents who were super irate about it, and I simply explained to them saying, hey, you click that's okay. I will stop promoting your property now, but I want you to understand I'm not breaking any laws. You clicked Internet Marketing and syndication is okay. You need to go back to that listing and turn that off. And then I would just keep going. And that's about that's the only issues that I ever ran into with it. And I really only had 2 to 3 calls over a space of a few months where that happened, okay? But that's where I went and just got a bunch of inventory for myself to use. I was in California. I've done the same thing up in Washington State, in both states, and I've done the exact same thing to generate a massive amount of listings from strong intent, high probability people. People aren't on Craigslist looking for homes unless they're generally pretty serious. People can cruise Zillow all day long doing comps, right, with no intention of selling. But to go to Craigslist and look for homes for sale, I mean, there's still some tire kickers for sure, but there's a higher percentage of people in the actual mode of looking for something, okay? And that's where I wanted to go, was get people who were serious, slightly, strong intent, high probability. The result for myself, I posted 10 properties on the first day, okay? I had 5 inbound calls literally the next day off those 10 posts, and I was showing one of those callers that exact same day. He was funny enough, he was a software engineer, one of the senior software engineers at his company. He was looking for an investment property. And then I was showing 2 additional of those same 5 callers the next day. One was a family with 3 kids, and the other was a couple looking to buy their first home. And what happened is, off that success, I don't remember the timeline and how fast I got people into escrow, et cetera. But off of that, what happened is I basically ended up posting 75 properties on Craigslist by the end of the next week, just to keep that all cranking and going for myself, okay? And once I had that amount of inventory running on Craigslist, it was averaging about 25 to 45 calls a week, depending on whether it was a holiday week or what the weather was outside, or anything if there was like a major, football game on a weekend, then, for example, if the 49ers were playing, then there would be less calls, right? But if there wasn't a major sports event on the day, there would be more calls. And you guys already understand this. I mean, you're in real estate, so you understand how there can be spikes, ebbs, and flows to all this that most new agents don't get. But it averaged between 25 to 45 inbound calls a week to me just off my Craigslist ads, okay? This was the one...
Can we make a quick distinction here before you move
Sure.
on? I want everybody to understand these were live inbound conversations, calls, not captured leads that you're chasing and battling voicemail, not a name and an email address where you're trying to smile and dial 100 times to get a few people to talk to you. These were 25 to 45 live conversations on an inbound basis where you answered the phone and helped somebody who was inquiring.
Exactly.
I just want to be real clear on that distinction. These aren't just leads. Agents are out there chasing leads in mass, but few are having conversations. You were having 25 to 45 conversations a week, first-time type conversations, and that's the result.
Exactly. Let me take the time right now to answer the questions that have come in so far, and then we'll move on. We've got a whole bunch here. Okay, guys, I'm going to spend 7 minutes or less on questions. Okay. How are you in compliance with real estate advertising laws with no company name? I'm just simply promoting the property, and I'm not even promoting the address or anything. I'm just saying call in for recorded information for additional details. When people call in, the recording they get that they listen to is an exact replicate of the ad itself. So they're actually just rehearing everything they just read. And then when it connects them to me in a live conversation, that's when, after answering their questions, answering as customer service, answering their questions, etc., that's when they find out that I'm a real estate agent. Okay, but I don't offer to show the home or anything like that without explaining that I'm a real estate agent. Don't we have to identify that we are realtors on Craigslist? You can actually even put in your brokerage name under the 800 number call to action. The whole point is that you're not promoting yourself and you're not making the prospect shy away from a lead, shy away from calling about the property. See, most agents put up their own personal number. We put up our picture, our call to action, and people shy away from that because they don't want to talk to a salesperson. Are you going to explain what you include in the 24-hour phone recording? I think I just did that. Yeah. So you basically just replicate exactly what you put in the ad, which is still a cozy copy, but they've gone from reading it, which is kinesthetic, to hearing it, which is auditory, or reading it visual, hearing it auditory. You're basically delivering the same marketing message to the prospect through two different modalities, which is a principle of direct response marketing. You want to sink that hook in deep. And you're also not overcomplicating things. How many ads, what time of day, number of calls, I just covered all that. Do you have to add a disclaimer that if you were already working with an agent, this is not a solicitation for business? If they're already working with a buyer's agent, unless they've signed a contract, they're not required to stay loyal to that person. That's up to that agent doing a good job.
Why wouldn't you save deciphering that for the conversation anyway?
What'd you say, Gary?
This is my thought. Why wouldn't you just save that for the conversation? You can have a conversation.
Right.
Why wouldn't you just want to have a conversation with them and weed that part out?
Right.
I want to talk to everybody out there who's high intent, high probability.
Again,
so
remember
have a conversation.
Yeah, remember what I said, guys. First-time conversations is the key. 3 out of 4 transactions close with the first agent that a prospect connects with and has meaningful dialogue with. So everything became focused on that. Another question: do you ask other agents to use their listing? I personally didn't. I just went and pulled off Trulia. That being said, the safer route is to just talk to other agents in your office, but you still would not use the address because you don't want people driving to it or going and searching the address in Google. You want them calling you.
Which, by the way, it's very, very easy to borrow inventory from other agents if you approach them correctly.
All right, guys. When you identify yourself, aren't there limits to Craigslist postings? I think they changed the rules and will limit the number of postings. I posted about 10. I would post up to about 10 a day. And then what happened is after that, I would refresh the first 10 that I posted like 5-6 days ago a week later. So every week, 10 properties would refresh only once a week. And typically the refresh laws on Craigslist are 3 days. So if I waited 5 to 6 to 7 days, I was fine.
Actually, let me add something to that. This is a subtlety of this strategy that can actually amplify the results and double the number of calls you're getting. It's one where when you post a listing, you can renew that listing or delete it and repost it every 3 days. So what you want to do is continually refresh those listings as often as possible because about 65 to 70% of the overall activity from Craigslist comes from the top 100 list. That main page that they click on when they hit real estate in their area, that top 100 on the front page. So what you want to do is have your listing gliding through that top 100 as frequently as possible during the highest traffic periods on Craigslist. So what you want to do is post at 11 a.m. or 5 p.m., and then you want to renew your listing 3 days later at 11 a.m. or 5 p.m. That'll maximize your exposure in front of prospects' eyes that are resting on a Craigslist top 100 page. So that's, if you just follow that simple rule, you want to, when you get the recording of this, go back and listen to this again and really get this subtle point. It'll drive your call response from Craigslist by at least 50%, if not double. So again, 11 a.m., 5 p.m., and renew your listings every 3 days.
Yep, and that's exactly what I did, guys. I actually forgot to put that in here because it's been so long since I was using this as,
Actually, you were putting up so many listings, Andre, that it just, you every 5 or 6 days was adequate for what you were doing. But if you're borrowing, say, 10 listings or 15 listings from other agents in your office, renew those babies as often as you can. Just churn through that top 100 as frequently as you can at 11 a.m. or 5 p.m., one or the other, the high traffic points on Craigslist.
Perfect. So guys, again, this is the one thing that I did where, again, I was literally sleeping in a sleeping bag under the desk in my office. I was working till 1 a.m. every morning because the cleaning staff would come in at midnight, and I didn't want them to see that. So they always thought I was a workaholic. Then they would leave. I would go to sleep. I would wake up at 6 a.m., 6 a.m., get out of the office before other people came into the building. It was more like a shared suite office building. I'd go to 24-hour fitness to shower and get my day started and then come back to work, right? So this is what I use to get out of such a miserable position in life, and it worked for me, okay? I've had a bunch of other questions come in, but they actually will be answered later on throughout the webinar itself already through the content, guys. So if I didn't get to your exact question, just know it'll be answered throughout the webinar. So let's move on. Okay, so here's another change in mindset, okay? Perspective or approach to something. There are two really big marketing mistakes that people make in general, but I'm going to specifically focus on it today with just us as real estate agents, okay? The first big mistake that we make so often is spending money on marketing for the sake of marketing, right? There's this belief that goes around that you got to spend money to make money. But applied blindly, it's wrong. And I put this in one of the emails that I sent out this week. The better way to say it is, if you can't buy a new client, you don't have a business. Okay, but spending money for the sake of spending money on marketing for the sake of marketing is a formula for a lot of waste and disaster, because there's a lot of different things that you can spend money on. A couple of agents emailed me this week saying, hey, I'm a newer agent, and I'm just wondering what's the best place to start with my marketing and my marketing budget, because I'm getting a lot of offers from a lot of lead generation and marketing companies promising me this and that, and just promising me the world, and I don't know what to pick. It's overwhelmed, right? We can all probably relate to that. So throughout this process, what I'm going to show you guys by the end of it is, again, that formula that you can use to filter out the bad decisions and hopefully help you make better decisions more often. But one of the things you got to understand is you don't want to be spending on marketing. You don't want to be spending money on marketing for the sake of marketing, and it's never been easier to do that because of all the things we're getting pitched with as agents, okay? So again, got to spend money to make money applied blindly is wrong. It's better to say, if I can't buy a new client, then I don't have a business. And key is, I didn't say to buy leads or buy data. I said to buy a client, okay, to buy clients. And the best way to buy a client is to get first-time conversations, okay? So all your marketing, as I said before, needs to be geared towards generating first-time conversations. The second big mistake overall is not knowing what you want out of your marketing, okay? Instead of buying into the latest and greatest pitch that you're getting hit with, you need to begin with the end in mind and work backwards from there, okay? And you need to focus everything in your marketing on generating that one specific thing, whatever it is that you want as a result, okay? If you want just leads, you're going to get just leads. If you're buying data, you're just going to always usually have a whole bunch of data. But if you want first-time conversations, you're going to approach all your marketing differently because you want first-time conversations. And it might sound simple, or it might sound super simple on the face of it. But if you actually explore the depths of approaching everything with the end in mind and working backwards from there, it actually helps you to eliminate a lot of shiny objects, a lot of bad decisions, and focus on stuff that might not seem glitzy and glamorous like Craigslist, but that actually builds your business. I mean, for me, it built it so fast. I'd never experienced something like that before. And I was a guy who was doing 100 phone calls a day prospecting outbound 6 days a week, okay? Again, you need to focus all your marketing on one thing, right? And this is actually a really great picture I found. I always tell agents, take out a notepad and a pen and start mind mapping out all the different things you have to do on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, and annual basis to even just maintain your business, right? Marketing, CRM, prospecting, managing an assistant, showing buyers, open houses, listing appointments, pre-qualifying buyers, updating your clock hour license, your clock hour, keeping your license active with clock hours. I mean, just on and on and on and on. I honestly I've never found an agent that could fit everything they have to do on one piece of paper. It always expands to 2 to 3 different pieces of paper, okay? All the things you got to do. And that's why it's so easy to end up just kind of feeling burned out and getting bogged down and working from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. because you seem to be going in a whole lot of different directions. And remember what I shared about what most agents focus on versus what top 2% agents focus on, right? Just like the whole Moneyball example, what the Athletics focused on versus what all the other teams focused on. You got to find the key things or the one thing that's going to make the biggest shift and then just have an obsessive focus around that one thing. And again, that for me is first-time conversations, okay? So strategy 2 of 3. I'm going to dive in. Now pay attention. This is going to be another kind of different one that you may have ever heard before, but it is going to show you something really, really interesting, okay? Strategy number 2, graveyard pipelines. And I came up with some brilliant titles for these, right, guys? Really, really out of the box. Is go to other agents and offer to work their dead trash leads in exchange for a referral split. Okay, you typical referral split is 25%. You could even offer something as low as 10 to 15% because you'll say, hey, these are dead trash leads, but I've got no business. I'm strapped for cash. I'm willing to do the work and work your dead leads, your graveyard pipeline, okay, in exchange for a referral split. Go to any 10 agents in your office. You should get a high percentage of them to allow you to work their dead leads, all right? And what you do is you send a magic 9-word email, engage in sorting dialogue, and offer those prospects a cookie. Now, for those of you who weren't on the webinar a couple of weeks ago where I specifically talked about 10xing lead conversions and talked about the magic 9-word email, the sorting dialogue, and offering the cookie. In a second, I'm going to get into that a little bit deeper and give you the basics around that. So for those of you who are hearing this for the first time, it's okay. I'll give you the crash course on it in like 3 minutes. That being said, when we send out the replay for that specific webinar, you'll want to definitely watch that one. And then Gary's going to add a few different nuances to this strategy as well once I get through talking about the basics of it. So what you're going to do for buyers is you're going to send out a 9-word email that literally says this: are you still looking for a home in Pleasanton? Okay, or Seattle or Kirkland or Marysville or wherever it is. The whole point of it is to send out an email, and I don't have a lot of time to talk about the psychology of this. That was what the past webinar was about, but it's sending out an email that the prospect has never gotten before, because typically agents send out, paragraph emails. We offer all of our services, our help, and it's call me anytime. I'm here to help you, and I can show you homes, and I can do this, and we can get you pre-qualified. And all you're doing is you're pushing the prospect away because you're triggering sales resistance. Instead, send something out that seems like it's meant just for them, and you're actually expecting a reply. Listen, you think that graveyard pipelines are graveyard pipelines? They're not. They're only graveyard pipelines because they were incubated improperly. There's a big difference between selling a prospect who you're working with and incubating a lead, okay? But you send that email out. Then what you do is you put them on a weekly market watch email. So for those who respond, you simply ask them another sorting question. Okay, so if they say yes, for those who say no, don't even bother following up with them. You don't have time for tire kickers or for people who are going to waste your time. If they say yes, you simply ask them another sorting question. For example, it could be like, are you looking to buy a home or to invest? And they'll respond to that, right? Give them really short 9-word question emails or less that are sorting. If you do this 2, 3, 4 times in a row, what happens is a percentage of the people, of the leads, will respond with what I call the love letter. They send you a paragraph just explaining to you everything that they're doing and what they're hoping for and what they're looking for. When they do this, offer them a weekly market watch. Just put them on a weekly market watch email. Okay? So do not send them a property drip email that's automated with them clicking on the links. Every week, find the 2 to 3 properties that best match your buyer leads, for example, for any one city or any one town. So, for example, if you picked a town like Marysville or Bobsville or Georgesville or whatever, any properties that came on the market that week, pick the top 3 properties, one that's an instant equity fixer, one that's an overpriced luxury home, and one that's a perfect equity home, okay? And send that out in a personally written 250-word email, short by you, with no address on there, but just an 800 number call to action for them to call you for more details on the property. And then also share a buyer tour schedule. Offer something like every Tuesday and every Thursday at 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. I do a buyer tour of every home in Gainesboro or in Jimsville or in Marysville. And what you do is you take them on a tour of those 3 properties, right? If you don't have a bus or you can't rent a bus, just tell everybody to follow you in a caravan, right? They just follow you in their own car. And what you do is you take them on a tour of those 3 specific properties. You just tell them to meet you at a specific address at a specific time, and whoever shows up, you take them on that tour. The key here is you're creating low resistance, easy engagement processes for these leads to come to life and identify themselves instead of making them feel like they're going to get blasted by a realtor who's going to chase them constantly, okay? And then you can also offer them a weekly or a monthly buyer workshop that you could even co-facilitate with a loan officer. All right, for sellers, you simply send them, are you still looking to sell your home? Or some version of that. Then again, you put them, for those who respond, you keep sorting, and then you also put them all in a weekly market watch email, which is simply an email sending out 2 to 3 homes that sold in their market that are similar to their home, just kind of letting them know what's happening in the marketplace. And then the call to action is that you can offer them an open line comp call. So something like, hey, every Tuesday and every Wednesday from 12 to 2 o'clock, I do an open line session for home sellers. You can call me in, and I'll give you a quick a comp plan over the phone where I can run you some basic comps on what your home might sell for. Okay, and then I'll email you that comp report. This is a really, really easy way, really simple way to filter through a dead database, what other agents might think is a dead database, and bring it back to life. Okay, and just send it out, okay? And send out something that's easy and simple that doesn't take a lot of work on your part, and just see who engages. Again, you're looking for that dialogue, that engagement. You're not looking to market to them and chase them. You just want people to raise their hand and identify themselves as a living live prospect who might be potentially interested in what you have to offer, okay? Now, things I did not do. I did not put leads on a regular property drip. I never offered one-on-one help in those emails unless asked for specifically by the client. I did not try to automate everything, okay? And I did not ever chase them and try to follow up with them and pester them. What I did do was hand type out a short 250 to 350 word email for the weekly market watch emails, whether it's buyer or seller. I did use an 800 number recorded info call to action every single time. I did make an offer that always felt like it was already scheduled and happening, right? Open line sessions, scheduled buyer tours, monthly workshops, whatever it is that you offer as something that's already happening that you know a buyer or seller might be interested in, always make it feel like it's already happening. The reason why these people haven't responded to the previous agent, if they are at all serious about buying or selling, is because they just didn't want to be obligated or feel like they're going to get chased and pestered and sold to. Okay, so you're just going to do a much more sophisticated and yet simpler approach of marketing to these graveyard, quote unquote graveyard pipelines, and you'll be amazed at the kind of response that you can get out of them. I did also treat every lead like a 5-star prospect. I read 5-star, a 5-star prospect, until they disqualified themselves by not engaging with me, not responding, or saying they weren't ready. And then I never chased them. I just focused on the top people, on the top people who were responding and engaging with me. Okay, and then I did always stick to the exact same schedule for any of your weekly emails, open line calls, tours, whatever it is that you're going to do as your system for getting a lead to work with you in a way where it's already scheduled and happening. Always stick to the same schedule. It's like Pavlov's dog, right? Train them to always expect a weekly email at the Tuesday at 8 a.m. or whatever day you pick. Or open line calls are always, Wednesday and Thursday from 12 to 2. Tours are always, Monday and Friday or Friday and Saturday. Whatever it is that you pick, stick to the exact same schedule, because what will happen is initially people might not engage, but give 2, 3, 4 weeks of doing this, they will start to trust that it's always happening, that it's a system, and then it feels safe to kind of come out more into the open and engage with you, okay? Next, this is actually really interesting. Gary, you didn't even see this yet. This is an email I got from an agent who was on the webinar where I spent the whole webinar talking about these kind of conversion mechanisms about a couple of weeks ago. She sent me this email 6 days ago. First name is Shelly. I protect the identity of anybody who ever reaches out to me. The first part says some other personal stuff, but read this email here. She goes, I did use the advice from last week's call about having a tour at the house. Now, she got this a little bit wrong. She thought I was talking, when I said tour, she thought I was talking about doing a tour of a home. So it's kind of like an open house. But the call to action was to have a buyer's tour. She goes, save me some time and gas money, but I didn't have anyone on time to help with closing the deal. Also had lots for no-shows. For example, I had one Tuesday evening, I had 4 people said they would be there. 1 showed. The 1 turned into a good showing. I had another last Sunday. 3 were scheduled, but no one showed. So first off, what I want to show is she did this, and in the first few days, she got 1 person to show up out of a database to look at a home. Okay, the thing that was done wrong there is that it was done as a tour of 1 house, not a buyer tour of like a neighborhood or a market where you like pick a town and and show the top 3 properties, right? An instant equity home, an overpriced luxury home, and a perfect equity home, right? But what you do need to see is that even if that was your constant statistics, to get 1 new buyer a week to come out of a database and meet with you face to face is huge. And my response to Shelly was, you have to now do this. Pick 2 days a week to do our tours, always on the same time, always the same 2 days of the week, and keep it consistent. And those people who scheduled but no showed will show up. Like, the key you got to see is that 1 person showed up, but if you add up all the people who responded, it was 4 plus 3, and I think there was 1 more. So 5 people out of a dead database actually responded and said, hey, I want to show up and do this. Okay? So you got to understand that too. That's 5 dead people who came back to life, so to speak. Right? Very, very powerful. And again, my response to Shelly was that now you got to do this consistently, same time, repeat it, get consistent, make this the system. Sometimes you'll have no-shows. Sometimes you have 5 couples show up. Okay? You got to be ready for either or. This is real estate. Okay? Sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. My results out of this strategy going to other agents with only 3 graveyard pipelines. I just went out and got 3 graveyard pipelines. I sold 4 homes ranging from $638,000 to $275,000 in the first 3 months. Buyers ready to pop. Okay? I took 3 listings in 3 months. And here's what so again, let me not rush through that too fast. That is what happened out of just 3 graveyard pipelines. This is what agents would call dead leads, okay? This is very bad programming to think they're dead leads. And here's why. Here's pipeline math you absolutely must know as an agent. Only 15 out of any 100 leads will do something the first 90 days, okay? And this is pretty average for sales in any industry, B2B, B2C. Out of every 100 people, it's actually easier to think about this in lots of 100 than 1 person at a time. For every 100 people, 15 will buy or do something in the first 90 days. But 35 out of 100 people will do something between 90 days and 18 months. The other thing to remember, too, is 50 out of 100 people will typically never do anything. So what you're dealing with is most agents never consistently market to the 35 people in the 90-plus days category. But 85% of your potential revenue in any lead database is in that category, that 35 people who will do something after 90 days. So you can go back to a dead database that's 6 months old, even 9 months old, 1 year old, send out those shotgun 9-word emails that I talked about that seem very personal and are expecting a reply. Literally, don't add a single word, just expecting a reply as if from a friend to a friend. And you will literally get people to raise their hand and come back to life, because not everybody who's thinking about selling or buying is going to do it in the first 90 days. 35%, 35 people out of 100 who may be interested in buying or selling today won't do it for another 90 days to 18 months. So this play is around just willing to take something that most people think is dead and approach it in a slightly different way. And what I want Gary to talk about right now is we're actually seeing the almost exact same stats on inbound phone calls. Is that, a certain percentage are ready to do something right now, a certain percentage are out, 90 days, 6 months, 9 months, and then a certain percentage always throw away leads. And the key is, especially with the way I told you to email out, is don't waste your time on understand that 1 out of 2 people will not do jack with you. So when you send out the 9-word email, if, most agents want every lead to work with them. You have to understand that half won't. And so when you're sending out these emails and you're sending out these sorting questions, the whole focus is to get the people who are ready to do something to rise to the top, identify themselves, and then you focus 90% of your time on that top percentage of leads who are raising their hand and engaging with you. But Gary, I want you to talk a little bit about the overall numbers that we've been seeing as a company since the inception of the company, of what happens with these percentages and these stats that most agents don't really realize, but actually give you an opportunity for, getting leads to come back to life, 90 days out, 6 months out, 9 months out.
Well, the things you're pointing out statistically with these dead leads is it's a bit different on the inbound call basis. It depends on the lead source too. It's one of those things like our Craigslist inbound lead calls run right along the lines of the same statistics you're pointing out here. 15 out of 100 in the first 90 days, 35 out of 100 within the 90 to 18 days, or 18 months rather, and 50 of them are typically not going to do anything. Well, drive-by prospects out in front of listings, that's an entirely different story. They just pumped $100 worth of gasoline into their SUV's gas tank, and they're out driving through neighborhoods on a Saturday afternoon, a couple hours away from their family, spending a couple hours away from family time. That's a high-intent, high-probability investing in their actual research in the form of gasoline to go out and drive around. When they're sitting in front of listings, we found the statistics on that are about 20% of them are doing business within the first 90 days. Another 50% of them are going to do something within the 3 to 18 months period, and about 30% of them are more of the trash can variety. So it's one where it depends the media source or what pathway or channel that prospect's responding to you through as to what these stats are going to wind up being. But I want everybody on this that's listening to this webinar, I want to really encourage you to go, when the recording of this comes out, go back to this section and listen to it a couple of times and listen to the psychology that Andre's laid out here for how to revive leads that are essentially dead leads. What he's doing is he's humanizing the process. Typically, like he was saying, all that realtors tend to send out are marketing messages. Well, what he's doing with this is treating that prospect on the other end like a human being and not a marketing message, because that's the way we email our friends. That's the way we communicate with our circle of influence to people we know. So that's what's happening there, and the psychology behind that. I can't really add a whole lot to what you said, Andre, because I think you laid it out beautifully. I just want to encourage everybody to go back and listen to that again, and take notes and really pay attention to what he's saying here, because if you engage your online leads in the way he's referencing, you're going to get far, far more production out of those online leads than the way you're typically doing it.
Exactly. So, I appreciate that. And the other thing too, guys, if you're at all podcast listeners or consumers of information, a great podcast I would recommend going and downloading off of iTunes and listening to is a podcast called I Love Marketing. It's put on by a couple of guys named Dean Jackson and Joe Polish, not names that are familiar to everybody, but I'm in a couple of different masterminds around B2B marketing, real estate marketing, just different kinds of marketing masterminds. And so we all get to kind of swap ideas in our masterminds and share. But that podcast is something those two guys put on that are super, super good marketers. And if you just want a lot of content around the psychology of leads, of lead conversion, lead persuasion, in addition to what I'm able to cram into the call today, in addition to our weekly webinars and anything else, I would suggest that you go and just start listening to that podcast. It's free. It's called I Love Marketing. Search it through through iTunes, and they got a lot of great episodes up there. And there's actually an episode where Dean Jackson himself will talk about, Dean and Joe talk about the 9-word email, okay? And give you more nuance around that. And Gary and I in the future will be doing a webinar where we're going to revisit the whole concept of lead conversion and talk more about that. But that's just a whole side note for you guys is, again, if there's a good resource out there, our philosophy here at ProQuest is share that with everybody, share that with the community. If we find a good platform out there with good information, we want to get that in front of you guys. So just go check that out. All right, well, moving on here. Or actually, let me get you some questions here. Really quickly, see if there's any questions. Go through. Oh, there's a guy named Bill in here who says Dean Jackson 9-word email. Exactly. So somebody on here knows about Dean Jackson. That's cool. Can I use my own dead leads? I have lots of those. You better believe it. You better use your own dead leads. That's what you need. You need to go send this 9-word. If you have dead leads, you need to go send this 9-word email today, right now, after this webinar. Don't offer anything else. You can have your signature in there. Just have some space between that 9-word email and your signature. Click enter a bunch of times in a few vertical periods to space it out. Imagine that you're sending out that email to somebody who's checking it on their mobile phone and they might respond with one-word answer. Do that today. The next question is, what if you don't know if it is a buyer or seller lead? Typically in a database you do. I mean, if an agent bought leads or if they generated leads, they can usually tell if they're buyer or seller. If you don't know, then you craft a 9-word email around sorting whether they're a buyer or seller. Question, can you email the sample market watch for buyer and sellers? We'll work on putting that together and trying to get that out to you guys. Scripts here. Are these sessions recorded? Yeah, we're recording this one and we'll try to get it out to you guys next week. Have you ever worked with RedX to get listings? I've used RedX a couple of times. Mixed results. I don't use RedX anymore. We're actually going to do a webinar in the future where we're going to review a bunch of different lead generation platforms and tools like Zillow, Market Leader, Trulia, RedX, SmartZip, etc. And I'm going to kind of give you my honest perspective, my personal biased opinion on it, and then you can make your own decisions from there. Ted asks, when you have a conversation with the Craigslist 800 number prospects, what did you tell them about the house and how did you get them to meet with you? Ted, we're actually going to spend some time talking about that towards the end of the webinar, so I'm just going to save that for a little bit later because everybody's probably interested in hearing about that. Okay, so guys, that was strategy number 2 of 3, okay? Now, again, as I've said, I'm going to have a few of these points throughout the webinar, so now another change in mindset or perspective that I'd love to really drive home for you guys and have you think on and noodle on. My one daily goal at that point was to generate 5 first-time conversations every single day, 6 days a week from inbound marketing. Okay, so it's creating marketing that would create inbound volume. And I specifically did not want lead capture. I didn't want data. I didn't want to buy leads. I wanted engagement. I wanted either a first-time conversation or a first-time email conversation where it was a really short email and it was humanizing the lead conversion or the lead nurturing, and I was talking to a real human being, human to human, okay? By the way, that 9-word email, you can email out to, 1,000 people. It doesn't matter because because it's written in a way where it feels like it's going out to one person. But my one daily goal, and you got to come up with that daily goal, that one goal for all your marketing and focus on that. And I got to tell you, when 3 out of 4 commissions are going to the agent who has the first conversation and connection with the prospect, I don't understand any other goal that you would pick besides first-time conversations for your business, okay? This right here, I'm going to take you through a couple of pictures, is exactly how most agents try to build their business. We're out there, and we're basically trying to catch fish with one pole, one thing at a time. Whatever it is that we're doing, we're trying to do it, and we're just, we're trying to catch a fish with one pole. We buy a small pool of leads, or we do this one big marketing thing that we spend some money on, and we hope that it works, okay? But my grandpa taught me something a long time ago, and that's that you get a lot more fish when you have more poles in the water, okay? Because if you're only fishing with one fishing line, you can only get one fish. But there's a whole lot of other fish in the water, right? There's usually more than one fish in the water. So if you can get more poles in the water, you can create more results for yourself. Okay? So it's very, very simple mindset around you want to create marketing that has plenty of opportunity for people to bite into bait and come to you, not doing vanity advertising, I call it, where it's, creating really great brochures about yourself or sending out really, marketing slicks or this or that. That has nothing to do with the bait that fish want, that our prospects want, but instead it's just doing vanity advertising, and the couple of leads that you do have, you're constantly chasing them. Instead, you want to be able to put lots of poles in the water with, 20, 30 Craigslist ads, have 2, 3, 4, 5 graveyard pipelines that agents think are trash or just are too lazy to work or don't have the time to work that you're willing to because you have a whole completely different strategy to work them. Okay? And what happens is that when you take one example like Craigslist or like graveyard pipelines and you put out a bunch of different polls with the different kind of conversion mechanisms that I talked about, which is the different kind of bait that I talked about, which is, open line calls, weekly market watch emails, buyer tours, or seller workshops, or the open line comp calls for sellers, whatever it may be, the effect that you have is you start creating mini nets that capture fish depending on what kind of bait is most attractive to them. Okay? And instead of chasing after the fish with a pole, which is how most agents are, offering help, begging for attention, dogs chasing cars, which is exactly the position I was in for years. Instead, you create things of value that are easy to engage with because they create natural engagement with low resistance, and they become mini nets that are capturing the fish that will respond to that kind of bait. Okay, and you put those multiple polls in every single form of marketing that you do. Those polls, again, are the delivery mechanism for the bait, which is, again, comp calls, things that are already scheduled, things that feel like they're already scheduled and happening. Again, like the comp calls, the open line calls, weekly market watch emails, buyer tours, seller workshop. Okay, so I know I'm moving through this pretty fast, but I just want you guys to kind of see the difference, some of the underlying difference behind why my marketing started working so well and why direct response marketing done this way works so well compared to what most mainstream marketing or lead generation results in. Okay, this is strategy 3 of 3. Something super, super boring that you would think would never work, but you're going to be pretty surprised with what this can actually generate. Okay, what you do with a classified, and I did this in the Pleasanton area, and this typically works in areas, and Gary actually, we've worked a lot with a lot of agents, with a few agents who have actually gone and actually done this the way it's supposed to be done. Typically, you want this to be focused on a demographic with a slightly higher age in it or just more population in it. But if you find if there's some reason a pocket or a neighborhood or an area with a super youthful or younger generation, this might not work as well there. Okay, that's the nuance. But what you do is you run a classified ad offering a free report to potential home sellers. And it can be something like 7 steps to passing your home inspection. Okay, really, really simple. And what you're doing is you're putting out bait that only a potential home seller would be interested in. The reason why I say it would work really well in areas where there's more people, where people have a slightly higher age demographic, is because those people oftentimes are move down situations, right? The kids have gone off to college and they're moving away. And so you're offering something that you know they would be interested in, that they're already kind of passively thinking about, which is selling their home. And hey, here's 7 steps to passing your home inspection. I would personally add something like 7 steps to passing your home inspection in 2014. Okay? Now, and that's very simple. That's exactly what you would offer. Now, what you do not do is use your telephone number. Okay? Give your name, offer services or help. But what you do, and you probably saw this already coming, is you only use an 800 number recorded info call to take action, call to action, okay? And you use the offer of 24/7 recorded hotline to get your free PDF report, okay? Very simple. And then when they call in, you put them into your database. When they call in for the report, you just engage them in a first-time conversation. When they ask you why you're doing this, you just say, well, I'm a real estate. For those of you who were on the webinar last week, you know exactly the way I approach this. I'm very open about the fact that I'm a real estate agent. I just say, hey, I'm a real estate agent, and ideally I'd be interested in maybe potentially selling your home for you someday, but right now I'm just going to help you out and see if you'd be interested in more of the kind of help I can give, and that's why I provide this report for free to people in my community. Okay, very open, very transparent, very laid back, so they know exactly who they're talking to and why you're doing this. Then you put them into your database, and then you just send them out a monthly newsletter or update after that. I like to do snail mail and email. Okay, you send that out. And what's happened is after running this for a period of time, usually 6 months or plus, running it in 2 to 3 different local papers. You want this in local papers. You don't want this in the bigger, like, national papers. You want this in local papers. 6 months later, this strategy was generating 2 to 3 listings per month, per monthly newsletter and snail mail send out. And after about 18 months, there's a pool of about 300 potential listings, 300 potential sellers who had, over the space of 18 months from me running newspaper ads that are $50 to $75, sometimes pretty cheap for the whole month, calling in for reports that are related to something a seller would be interested in. Okay, during your summer spike peak months, this could pull up to 5 to 10 listings a month every now and then. Okay, but overall, this is like a steady Eddie strategy that is a lot less money than buying listing leads that are pre-qualified or pre-approved for $50 to $75 a pop from Market Leader or Truly or whomever. And they're in your database. You're the only agent with them, at least from your marketing, and you've actually had a first-time conversation with them when they called in for the report, so that when you send them out future reports and when you follow up in 2 to 3 months because you told them you would, they know who you are, you've provided them value, and they appreciate hearing from you because you're not flooding them, but at the same time you are providing them value every month with the report. Now, Gary is going to talk a little bit about just kind of some of the nuances to making sure the strategy works really well depending on the kind of market you might be in or not in, and then just specifically some of the nuances around the conversion process to this strategy. And Gary, go ahead and take it away so I can have a quick break.
Sure. Well, one of the things about this particular strategy that's so powerful and so positive is the target group. The demographics tend to be the over 55 age group, which is a very an extremely good group to work, because for one, the ones who still read print more so, the younger crowd tends to get everything off of the internet. So the over 55 crowd, they tend to read their newspapers, those little throwaway newspapers that wind up on the driveway, different things like that. There are subtleties to the execution of this that really you've got to get certain your ad placement is critical. A lot of times you want to get your ad on what's called the jump page, which the jump page is that page where they're reading an article on page 1. It says continued on page 7. That's the jump page. And then if you can get the jump page, you want to have the upper right-hand corner of the jump page. There's subtlety about how to execute the actual marketing to be able to create these kinds of seller inquiries. But then the other big key is that just that continual nurturing process of staying in touch with them over a period of time, because quite frequently these are prospects that are 3, 6, 12 months out or more. And now you might be asking, or our listeners might be thinking about, well, how do you have that first-time conversation if they're calling for recorded information? Because if you call for recorded information, typically you're capturing a lead, you have to follow up, and then it's the endless voicemail battle. That's not how we deliver the report. When the prospect calls in, that seller prospect calls in for that free report, our system has a voice-activated prompting system at the end that says, would you like that free report mailed out to you? If so, say yes. Prospect says yes. You're already on the line waiting for them to have a conversation. Hi, this is Gary. Can I get the mailing address you'd like your free report mailed out to, please? They give you the mailing address. You say, and who should I send that attention to? Okay,
right.
Joe. Great, Joe. Well, yeah, and so we're able to segue that inquiry into a live conversation 90% of the time. So that's a real critical component to the whole sequence of events here, as far as the running of the ad, the generating the inquiry for the report, having the first-time conversation instead of talking into their voicemail endlessly, and then the consistent follow-up process. But yeah, we have many, many clients who are using this strategy to great effectiveness. I've got a client in the Philadelphia area who has been using the strategy now for about 2 years, and called me back in July on one of those weeks where he had a particularly good week. He took 5 listings that week from people who had been in his database, and it was interesting because he said there were a couple of them in there that had been in his database for over a year. So it is a little bit longer term strategy, but once it's constructed and once it's in motion, the velocity and the power to it is extremely, it can be an extremely effective pillar in your marketing mix.
A question that came in was, what category did you place your classified ad in?
The classified, well, typically under real estate and classifieds, but there's also another strategy for using small space ads that are that you get positioned within the body of the news in the actual newspaper. It's a little 3x4 ad that's a space ad that you want to get in the upper right-hand corner of, again, the jump page, preferably. That's the
Gary, are you saying junk page or jump page?
Jump, J-U-M-P. It's called
Yeah,
the
because
jump
somebody
page.
typed in and said, did you say you put the classified ad in the junk page in the right corner?
No. The jump page is that page where, again, I mentioned it earlier. It's when the person's reading an article on page 1, and it says continued on page 7. Well, page 7 is the jump page. The article jumps to page 7. And then you want to get the upper right-hand corner of that page, because that's where the eye tends to float to after the person turns the page. So that's where you're going to get maximum exposure, maximum attention. And I've got, well, in other examples, I've got a fellow in Stowe, Ohio that does this, runs a $90 ad every 2 weeks and generates about 25 inquiries a month. Now that culls down to about 15 viable seller prospects he adds to his database every month for $90 every 2 weeks. So it's one of those things that can be a very, very cost-effective means to build a pipeline to seller opportunities that will mature over time.
My preference is to run classified with a display ad. So display ad on jump page and then classifieds as well, just because there are people who love to read through the classifieds. And sometimes certain people won't respond to a display ad because they think it's more advertising in that sense, but they'll respond to a classified. It's really interesting, right? And there's other people who won't read through the classifieds, but they'll respond to a display ad.
One of the things about our display ad, though, is it is done in an advertorial format, so it almost looks like an article.
Right.
So it actually gets a lot of attention that way. But I do also like the classifieds a lot too, because that really culls out a lot of high intent, high probability prospects, because people typically don't browse the classifieds unless they're in there's a high intent, high probability there. Most people don't do that for fun.
The other negotiation strategy that I like to use with newspapers is say, okay, what's the best rate you can give me for your jump page? What are all your jump pages? They'll tell you which ones are their jump pages. What's the best rate you can give me for upper right-hand corner, right, in that area? Mm-hmm. And then when they give you the rate, say, is that absolutely the best rate you can give me? And they'll say, can you really not do any better? I'm in a really bad position financially. They'll typically try to get, I'm a first-time advertiser. Can you help me out with something? They usually give you a little bit better offer. Then say, okay, what if I paid you up front for 3 months in a row? How much more could you drop that? Okay. And they'll give you even a lower rate typically. And then you'll say, okay, look, if you can give me classified ads for free in addition to the display ad, if I prepay for 3 months up front, I'll do it. And then what you do is you've got your display ad you've got your classified ads to run for free along with your displayed ads. Doesn't work with every newspaper, but bring your negotiation mind to the table because you can really negotiate some sweet deals for placements in newspapers. Let's see here. What 800 service do you use and what's the cost? I'm actually going to talk about that here in just a minute. All right, guys. So this was the classifieds and technically display strategy too. But again, classifieds itself will work in generating some strong intent, high probability calls. Final change in mindset here. Simplicity is the key, guys. Simplicity, simplicity, simplicity. I hope you see that in everything that I'm talking about. Here's a snapshot of just one of my bookshelves. I'm a big reader. I read about 5 books a month. This bookshelf is the books that I'm more actively reading right now, and then I kind of rotate them out with other books because this is the visual one that I see all the time, right? But one reason I'm showing all this is because simplicity is key. And I'm showing you all this, right? And this is just an example, not about me, but about the world in general. There's so much information out there about so many different things, right? But take all the different concepts in marketing and business and everything that you might be doing or could do, and it all boils down to this. And I'm going to leave this up for a minute because everybody, I want you to write this, I want you to draw this out on a piece of paper for yourself. This is the simple 3-part formula that you can use to filter all your marketing decisions through, okay? Everything, at any one time in your business, you're only working on one of 3 things: traffic, conversions, or economics. Okay, this is the tactical triangle or the 80-20 triangle. And this was taught to me by one of my marketing mentors, Perry Marshall, probably one of the foremost, if not the foremost, sales and marketing expert in the world. Okay, anytime in your business, you're only working on one of three things: traffic, conversions, and economics. And this thing is actually fractal, but I'm not going to get into that because we're probably going to do a whole webinar just around this triangle as a principle for running your business. But I want you to draw this out, put it up on your wall, whatever you need to do. And remember that at any one point in your business, you'd be working on traffic, conversion, or economics. And within traffic, there's traffic, conversion, and economics as well, right? So everything I've showed you guys today is all about traffic, how to generate quality traffic. And we talked a little bit, and I showed you guys also mechanisms that I use for conversion. And in a minute here, I'm going to show you our tool and system that I'm personally biased to recommend for using for conversions, because it was the tool that I used when I was just an agent and I wasn't working with ProQuest. Now that I'm partnered up and working with ProQuest, I'm obviously biased in presenting that. But the reason is because this is the thing that worked for me. So it's just my story, right? And then economics. Economics is, the making of the money for you, the payoff for your prospect. But those are the three things that at any given point in time you're working on in your business. And when you're thinking about buying something for marketing or for sales or for whatever it is, it has to either what you have to ask yourself is, will this make a huge difference in T, C, or E? And if it doesn't, don't buy it, okay? And typically, most of the things that we get pitched with have to deal with traffic, right? So the question for me always is, will this very effectively, efficiently, and quickly create first-time conversations for me? Am I buying clients and conversations, or am I buying data or leads? Okay? And based upon that answer, I'm going to rate it as, if it's above a 7 for creating first-time conversations and high-quality interactions, I will use that platform, that strategy, whatever it is, right? Buying isn't just buying leads. Buying could be buying into the Craigslist strategy or buying into the classified strategy, whatever it is. It's, can this create first-time conversations for me? If it does not, I personally do not invest in it or do not engage in it. Because for me, my entire tactical triangle is focused on first-time conversations. Okay? So that's how I approach it. The habit of the top 2% marketers is to work everything backwards. And I already hinted at this earlier. But when you look at the TCE triangle, the tactical triangle, you actually want to start with economics and work your way backwards before doing anything, right? So you might ask yourself, okay, buying internet leads, for example, this company is offering me, a 6-month contract for $5,000. So I'm going to spend $5,000. What's the typical conversion rate? Let's say it's like 1% or whatever that may be, right? So then you rewind that back and say, okay, how much traffic would I need to have a 1% conversion rate to make $5,000 a good investment? Okay, but then you also have to ask some other deeper questions. How fast would I need it, right? Is there going to be how long is going to be the conversion cycle? How long, how soon can the traffic come in, right? So with Craigslist, for example, traffic was coming in the exact same day. With the graveyard pipeline strategy, traffic was coming in the exact same day. With the classifieds ad, traffic was coming in within a couple of weeks. Okay, conversion cycles though, right? So conversion cycles on Craigslist ads could be pretty quick. Graveyard pipelines could be pretty quick. On the classified newspaper strategy, they're a little bit more medium term, right? So the economics then. Well, if it's going to cost me X amount of dollars to run the classified ads, but I won't get any business for at least 6 months, can I maintain every month, month in and month out spend and maintain the strategy before I get payoff? If you can't, don't buy it. Don't buy into it, right? On Craigslist side and the graveyard pipeline side, there's really no money up front for doing that sort of advertising. So, and any money that you do have to spend, because the traffic is immediate and the conversions can be immediate or minus 90 days, you can afford to do that, okay? And this is a great little simple tool for helping you manage your decisions and your budget to make sure you're not out of pocket and you're just kind of riding the wave perfectly on what you can manage and what's best for you. And it's all about working it backwards from where you're at from what you want to where you're at. Again, like I said earlier, one of the biggest mistakes in marketing is not knowing what you want out of your marketing. And if it's just people can give you really great pitches, right, and sell us pretty well on their promises, but you got to really dig deep and work it backwards from, okay, if the end result is a deal, let's walk all the way backwards through what it would take, how long it would take, etc., and really look at some sober numbers. Don't look at the best possible numbers and scenario, okay? And the question I always have is, how are you going to generate first-time conversations with any one of your marketing systems? If you're working it backwards, when and where and how is this going to generate first-time conversations for you? Okay? This is my infamous Robinson Crusoe question. Okay? And people always kind of chuckle at this one, but this is my infamous Robinson Crusoe question. And I've actually never asked anybody on one of our ProQuest webinars, so I get to drop this on you guys for the first time. If you were stranded on an island like Robinson Crusoe, would you rather have a silver bullet for survival or a Swiss Army knife? Okay? Obviously kind of almost like a trick dumb question, right? The reason I ask it is because it perfectly captures my philosophy around why I do my marketing the way I do it. Most companies, products, and platforms pitch us as real estate agents a silver bullet, a magic button, right? A push button magic riches or a silver bullet, shiny objects, etc. For those of you who have been in real estate for any length of time, you know that silver bullets come and go, shiny objects come and go, but what doesn't change is the work itself, doing the work itself, the principles of real estate, the fact that it's a relationship business, right? Relationship driven, the fact that it's based upon fundamentals, and that no matter, the silver bullets can come and go and can help you sometimes for a season, but if you ignore the fundamentals and try to just chase on silver bullets, you're not going to get far for very long. Okay, so the Robinson Crusoe question is: do you to survive and thrive on a stranded island, would you rather have a silver bullet or a Swiss Army knife? Because in business, because we live in a free market here in our country, we have the opportunity to go out and build anything we want and have it, but you actually have to go out and build it, and you have to create it, okay? And for that, you need a specific set of tools or a specific process and specific strategies that work time in and time out, right? Over and over and over again, repeatable and provable. And for me, with that focus, it's all around marketing systems that may not necessarily seem like silver bullet systems, right? I mean, Craigslist isn't that fancy. Dead graveyard leads, not fancy. Classified ads and display ads in local little newspapers, not silver bullets, not at all, not whiz-bang, push-button, magic levers and potions, but it works, okay? It works. And that's the difference is between, marketing that works is when you know that it's actually going to work and you can take it through that TCE triangle, work it backwards and see why it would work, how it would work, and then just follow it out day in and day out. And for that, I call that the Swiss Army knife method. It's a Swiss Army knife approach to that all, okay? Now, the Swiss Army knife that I now deploy in all my marketing, and that now is the 800 number system that we offer, the product tool that we offer you guys, is something I'm going to demo to you in a second. A lot of you have been asking, well, where do I get what 800 number system do I use? How much does it cost, etc. This is the back-end dashboard. Gary, confirm for me that you can see the back-end.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. This is the back-end system of our 800 number system, the back-end of our software system that I use as a real estate agent before I started working with ProQuest, and then now I continuously use in all my marketing, is this right here. I do not have time to show you everything that this thing can do, but believe you me when I say this thing is a Swiss Army knife, okay? It's got all those blades. You can apply this in a lot of different ways in a lot of different situations in your real estate marketing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through just a crash course of how it plugged in to my Craigslist strategy, okay? And once you see that, you'll easily see how it also applied to the graveyard strategy and to the classified listing strategy, okay? So in this system here, what you can do is you can actually create entire teams of people in here, but if you were just using it by yourself as a solo agent, you can customize greetings, okay? So when people call in for calling the 800 number line, for example, off the Craigslist ad, the greeting that they would always hear initially is, "Thank you for calling your Pleasanton real estate hotline. Enter the 4-digit extension of the property you're calling about now." Okay? And there would always be if you remember my Craigslist ad, there was always a 4-digit extension. Those extensions in our system, we have 1,000 extensions in our system that you can use, right? And what you do is you simply, to add a new extension, this is literally how easy it is. You click New up in the left-hand corner. You name it. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 James Street, right? You can leave it it gives you the next sequential extension, or you can choose a custom one that you want. So let's say let's say that I want, for whatever reason, 374. And then to give it the pre-recording, that people would hear, all I do is save this, okay, and then just click text to speech. And what I do is I would copy and paste the Craigslist ad into here, and then just click create speech. And what it does is that it converts your word into a voice recorded message by the automated system, so that when the caller calls in, that's what they're listening to. Okay? And then of course once you're done, you just click create speech. You can listen to it right there. If you don't like it, you can retype it some different way and keep re-listening to it until you like it, then click accept when you're done. Then all you do is you would click save again, and that extension is live. Now, as you notice, all these extensions are 3-digit extensions. The reason but on Craigslist and on all the other advertising, I created 4-digit extensions. The reason for that is because the last digit is a marketing digit. It allows you to track where the calls are coming from. So you can track how well your Craigslist is doing, or how well your classified ad is doing, or your display ad, right? You can test display ad versus classified ad, or emails out to your weekly market watch emails, right? And if you're not using billboards, all you got to do is go in here and type in market watch email. You see what I'm saying? And you can change that to something that you can change it to that stat if you want to track it. For newspaper, you can just change it to paper display ad, right? And then just click save. So what you would do is, if you ran this property that we just put in, 12345 James Street, in Craigslist, you would use the 3-digit extension 374 and just add 3 at the end so that you knew that it was coming from Craigslist. Okay? And this whole system reports every call. It call captures every single call. It tells you where it came from, how long the call lasted, the name of the person, the telephone number of the person. It pulls it all. If I was running this in my Market Watch email, if I put that property in my Market Watch email, I would add 9 as the marketing extension, as the marketing digit, right? So it would be 3749. But it's still the same property. Okay, what happens is, when a prospect, this is the magic of it, when a prospect calls in about the property or calls in for a report, whatever it may be, our system automatically calls you while they're still typing in the 4-digit extension to hear the pre-recorded info, and it literally rings you. When you pick it up, it says, you're getting a call from 12345 James Street. Would you like to answer this call? You simply say yes, and then it puts you on hold until the person on the other end of the line has heard your pre-recorded message, and then our system comes on and says, if you would like current pricing or additional details, say yes. When they say yes, it connects you to a live transfer conversation. If they're calling in for a report, you would just simply type in something else. So instead of a property extension, you might say something like 7 steps for passing home inspection. Okay, and so then the system would call, when it rings you, it would say, you're getting a call from 7 steps for passing home inspection. So you automatically know that it's somebody calling off one of your newspaper ads looking for the home inspection report. And then it asks you, do you want to take this call? You say yes, you wait for them to listen to your pre-recorded message, and then what happens is, when they go through it, and they say yes for, do you want this PDF sent to you now? When they say yes, it connects you to them, so then you can take their information and chat with them for a minute and get that report out to them. Okay, so that is the bare bones, just top 20% look at what this system does and how it is that I was able to create, 75 properties on Craigslist and be able to track them all and have a different number for each one of them. How I was able to do Market Watch emails for all the different graveyard pipelines that I was sending out emails to with weekly Market Watch emails for buyers and sellers, and send that out, right, and track all that. And then also for the classified and displayed ads. This right here is what I call, when I found this, this to me is like the Swiss Army knife of marketing, right? There's a lot of people that pitch a lot of silver bullets, but this thing right here you can use in any situation for any kind of marketing to actually create the one thing that I personally think every agent should be obsessed with in their real estate marketing, which is first-time conversations. Live conversations, not leads, not data, live conversations from strong intent, high probability people. Okay, so that's the system. Now, really quickly, in a minute, I'm going to show you guys the back-end data to 3 of the top 100 agents in the U.S. as rated by the Wall Street Journal, okay? Here's kind of just everything that we've kind of gone through here today. I'm just scrolling through it really quickly. I've shown you guys a Swiss Army knife system. That's our system. It's the ProQuest system. Now, before I show you the back-end stats of those people, really quickly, I've got 2 short slides for you. In our community, here's what you get. You get the MVR flagship product, which is what I just showed you. We call it the mobile voice routing platform because we actually route conversations to you through a voice prompt, okay, which is a huge difference from any other 800 number capture system. First off, we capture, but then we actually create a live conversation. It's not just lead capture, and then you're chasing them and battling voicemail. You get weekly coaching calls with John Galtieri and Gary Elwood. John Galtieri has been an agent for 30 years. He's been a client of ours since almost the beginning, and this guy is just an absolute genius. Not only is he an agent himself, but he has about 30 private coaching clients, agents that coach with him privately. And his lowest performing agent has I think about $250,000 income per year, and they don't stay there for very long. And he's an absolute genius at just handling phone calls. So for all the questions that have come in that talked about, what do I say? What if they say this? What if they say that? And just all the emails that you guys have been sending me about common objections and how to deal with them. Every single week in our community on Tuesdays, we do a live coaching call where John and Gary walk through either specific listing generation strategies, buyer lead generation strategies, or role-playing different objections and reversals, etc. Okay, so you get that. Also, Gary and I do a monthly live marketing Q&A call where for like a 2-hour open line session, you can get on a webinar and we'll unmute you for 7 to 10 minutes if we have time to get to you, and you can ask any question live and we'll answer it for you live, kind of putting us on a hot seat. And then everybody else who's on the call can hear that question get asked, and also if that's something that's relevant to their business, they obviously get the answer for themselves as well. So that's just another way that we support the people who are in our community. You also get a physical fast start kit with a plug-and-play strategies book. Okay, this book comes with audio CDs. That's a collection of our best all-star interviews. I'll have Gary talk about this in just a second. The physical fast start kit also comes with plug-and-play strategies for like generating how to use our system and different marketing strategies for FSBOs, for expireds, just on and on and on. Plug and play for all the different kinds of marketing that you could use as a real estate agent or that you would want to go after. Again, remember my metaphor that's the Swiss Army knife, right? So we're not just pitching you one little silver bullet that sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. This is a all-encompassing approach to all the different kinds of marketing that you would be doing as a real estate agent. There's a way that we support you for it. Onboarding process. It's a $100 setup fee. You get a one-on-one implementation call with Scott Wood. Scott is the co-founder of ProQuest Technologies along with Gary Elwood. So you don't get passed off to some junior associate or someone like that. You literally are going to be talking with one of the co-founders of the company. You're going to have at least an hour-long one-on-one implementation call. And the whole point there, and Gary's going to talk about this in a minute, is about creating velocity. It's about creating momentum. It's about escaping inertia and creating velocity. Generating 30, 40, 50 leads in the first month that are inbound phone call leads for you through Craigslist, through any other strategy that would work for you in your marketplace. And Scott is really good about, you telling him what you're trying to do and him saying, stop, no, we're going to do 1, 2, 3. And if you do these 3 steps, you're going to create X, right? Just kind of an accountability partner and somebody who's been in the business for a very long time and can help you fast start. Our system itself, with all the bells and whistles that it comes with, is $199 a month, no contract. We don't believe in contracts. We believe that if we're not producing results for you, you should cut us from the payroll, just like you would with a team member, with any other tool. That's how I approach my business. That's how I believe every agent should approach their business. $199 a month, no contract. You get all the tools that come with it, plus the 1,000 extensions that the system comes with. It's a flat fee. No matter how many leads you generate, we just flat fee it, so you don't have to constantly worry about price going up based upon bandwidth. You get the 1,000 extensions that come with it. If you want to join us today, just go to proquesttechnologies.com/order. Okay, it's going to be about $300 out of the gate to get rolling with us today. We'll follow up with you within 48 hours by the end of the week to schedule a one-on-one call. Okay, to schedule your one-on-one implementation call, and that's where it's going to be all about one-on-one time with you to help you crank out your business. For those of you who have been on previous webinars, you know the level of education that we're bringing to the community. We're all about trying to just help everybody grow, right? Kind of cut through the clutter, cut through the BS, figure out what's really working, and then make that work. So while most platforms out there kind of have a silver bullet and it works when it works, our process is, look, we're Swiss Army knife. It's all about evolution. The markets evolve, markets shift, things change. We're all about evolving with the market, always figuring out what's working, what's not working anymore, and then getting that to you guys, right, through the weekly Tuesday coaching calls, through the weekly Thursday webinars that we've been doing for the last couple of months that we're going to continue doing for free for you, even if you don't join our client community, because, again, we love bringing value to our community. So proquesttechnologies.com/order. Would love for you guys to become part of our community, and I'm saying that personally, me. And I can keep, and then continue to keep benefiting from us translating all the different data that we're getting from marketing out there, from other agents' marketing, from my own personal marketing, from my real estate team, and just getting that to you guys and helping you grow. Really quickly now, the 3 back-end numbers of 3 of the top 100 agents in Wall Street Journal, as rated by the Wall Street Journal, they're back-end numbers, okay? What I want you guys to pay attention to is look at the total monthly calls. If you look down at the very bottom line and scroll and look over to the right, this agent here, Valerie Hunter Kelly, she's generating 4,400 inbound calls in a 12-month period. Okay, but what you need to see is where 75% of these calls are coming in from. They're coming from the 3 lowest cost sources in her marketing budget. The other reason why I'm showing you this too, guys, is once you get out of the guerrilla marketing tactics and you've got your bills are paid, you've got 2-3 commissions in the bank as cushion after bills are paid, and you can do some bigger advertising. This is what a business looks like. This is what a top 100 in the U.S. business looks like. Okay, this is right here. This is what it grows out to. These are all clients of ours. Look at where the top 3 lines where most of the calls are coming in. The front of flyers, the back of flyers, and the sign writers. Okay, because again, there's a continuing education to everything we do. There's a psychology to everything we do. We don't put prices on the flyers. We use the 800 number system, and I'm going to show you some pictures of that in a minute so you see exactly how we do it. Okay, so just a second here. But she's generating 4,400 calls in a 12-month period. Right, and it's all broken down by month and then by category of where it's coming from. It's just amazing. This is Amanda Howard, okay, down in Alabama. Gary, how many transactions did Amanda do last time we checked in 1 year? How many sites?
Well, actually, I don't have her numbers for a total of last year. I know the year before she was right at about 300.
Yeah, right about 300 sites for 1 year.
Yeah, she went from 195 to 270 to the 300 range, and last year I didn't get total numbers. I'm sure it's probably up over 300 at this point. They're very, very consistent and aggressive about making sure each one of these conversations is handled extremely well.
Gotcha. That's amazing growth. And the other thing I would add too is Amanda is in a market in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, I believe, where most agents would consider it a horrible market, and she's absolutely just crushing it and dominating it there. And again, it's with these non-silver bullet, but real tactical, granular strategies that are principles-based, that are sticking to the groove of what real estate always has been. Sometimes the marketing changes, sometimes the technology changes, but what never changes is the fact that it's people, and from our perspective, it's all based, and from the data, it's all based upon first-time conversations. She's generating almost 6,500 phone calls in a 12-month period. And again, 93% of her calls are coming from her 3 lowest cost sources in her marketing budget. So it's just amazing. And then you've got Lisa Burridge here that is, again, same thing, but 9,500 calls in a 12-month period. Okay, she's doing some more other marketing where she runs she runs an ad in the Sunday news. She's doing some daily liners, running some news ads there. So she's getting a percentage of her calls from some of the advertising more along the lines of what I talked about, the classified strategy. Okay, again, just showing you guys some examples of this. This is an example.
Interesting footnote about Lisa before we move on. Lisa's in a market of about 50,000. She's in
Casper, Wyoming, right? Yeah, Casper, Wyoming.
She did 79 million in volume last year, and this is what they're, one of their core pillars. So obviously, pretty good volume for a market of 50,000.
See, I play in Los Angeles, so it's a huge market, and when those kind of numbers happen for our team, like that's fine. But when I see numbers like this for someone in Casper, Wyoming, and you hear about $80 million in volume there, it's just like you know what I mean. It just makes you kind of go, wow, that person is absolutely dominating and crushing that market. And it's such a small market too, when you think about it, relative to a bigger metropolitan area. Some quick examples, guys, of like a sign writer that works for these agents. And again, this is just giving you guys more value for what works. This is what's generating a massive amounts of these calls, is using recorded info about that house, no price on the brochure. I'll show you the brochure in a minute. And then just putting up the 800 number sign with an extension for that property, right? And of course, the marketing digit is the sign writer.
By the way, Andre, that demo line, if agents want to take a pen and paper and write that down, that's an automated demo line. It's full simulation. You won't have someone on the other end of the line waiting for you like it would if you were actually using it. But you can call and listen to it, and it'll walk you through the exact process we go through to get a prospect to a live conversation with you 9 out of 10 times when they pull up in front of one of your listings. So go ahead and take a listen to it, and then there's also a direction on there to take you to an extension of how to handle the call. I actually give you a 5-minute explanation of how to handle the call on a recorded extension there. So you can kind of browse around and just check it out. It's
perfect.
Nobody's going to bother you or be on the end of the line waiting for you, so you can feel free to just sort of poke around and take a listen to it. It'll give you a real good feel for how the whole approach actually works, the logistics of how we're getting through to live conversations, how we're beating the voicemail battle, how we're actually talking to people instead of talking into their voicemail.
So for all of you who have been asking questions at the webinar about how would you handle that call or how would you talk to those people, just dial 1-800-959-6550, and when it prompts you for the 4-digit extension, just type in 1001, and you'll get that answered. And you can take notes and go through it multiple times, as many times as you want. Okay, and again, that's just free for you guys.
Exactly.
Here's an example of the flyer that Lisa uses. Without being like rude to Lisa, this is how low the bar is set for creating those kind of 9,500 phone calls a year, right? And this is obviously one of the channels, but this is not some slick, polished flyer. This is, and she includes her number at the bottom, but the comparison of how many people called that versus the 800 number you guys saw earlier already. See, because people don't want to call an agent because they typically don't want to call an agent because they don't want to get sold, right? They have this auto rejection about calling a salesperson. But for 24-hour recorded info and price, yeah, they'll call all day long. So this is the front of her flyer. We don't have a back of the flyer scanned, but the back of the flyer, typically what it does is it just has other properties that she's listing on the back of a flyer, and it's got 4-digit extensions on those. Now one of the ads that she runs is this right here. Just opens up with free 24-hour recorded information, called that number that you see up there, and enter the 4-digit code shown. And then each one of those houses has its own 4-digit code. You can see the code in yellow on the picture of each one of the homes. And so people call in the 800 number, and they can call in multiple properties sometimes. But that's how she's generating a lot of massive calls, right? And she's running only Sundays because typically Saturday people party, Sundays when they do some of the errands and chores that they've been meaning to do before they get back to work Monday, because Sunday is going to be an early night. So typically sometimes, especially if it's, church-going folk, is when she's out in Casper, Wyoming, they'll just typically start getting a lot of calls around, 12, 1 o'clock, right? People go to church, do lunch, and then they call. In the metropolitan areas, this strategy works. It can spike around on Sunday throughout most of Sunday, right? Or you'll get some spikes on Saturday with people planning to do things on Sunday. So that's why she's running it just on Sunday, though, herself, if you remember from her numbers. I'll actually just scroll back and show you. This is Lisa Burge. You can see Sunday news. So she specifically tracks it just by Sunday news, okay? Because she's just marketing on Sunday news. There's another ad that she does, daily liners, just news in general. So those are examples of that. Again, I'm just put this information together for you guys to see real world, real life examples. Again, would love for you guys to join our community. I think agents are the ultimate entrepreneur because we truly eat only what we kill. And unlike small other businesses, we don't have support staff and systems usually in place to the degree that they do. For us, we wear all the hats in our business, and it's up to us to make it happen. Every one of us basically is, in some essence, in the Robinson Crusoe scenario, especially with what's happened in the market over the last few years. So ProQuestTechnologies.com/order. That's the last I'll say for that. If you want the link again, just ask me in the chat box. Otherwise, would love for you guys to come join our community. And now Gary and I, we're just going to hang out and do live Q&A. So Gary, I'd love for you to talk for a minute right now about talk about what I talk about, where I mentioned you talk about where creating fast velocity, how that's the key and how we focus on that in our implementation. I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about our implementation process right now and what an agent could expect in that who joins our community.
Sure. Well, the number one goal we have for when we take on a new client is to get you out of the gate as fast as humanly possible and get you to commissionable dollars. Our objective is to propel you forward so that you gather traction very, very rapidly. We're going to focus in on the top 3 strategies and exclusively, even though there are, like you said, it's a sort of the Swiss Army knife. You've got probably a couple dozen different ways that you could deploy this and target market various different niches. But we're going to focus in on the top 3 strategies and get momentum. The key here is get the phone ringing, get you taking calls, and help you be effective with those calls. Real estate is fundamentally a relationship-driven business, and it all starts with the conversation, and we want to start creating those inbound conversations for you as rapidly as humanly possible. So the implementation, it's very smooth, it's very quick. It's a 45-minute one-on-one webinar with Scott Wood, like Andre mentioned, and again, he'll walk you through everything step by step, make sure everything is set up appropriately for you. We actually get in there hands-on and help you set everything up. This isn't where we send you a box of stuff and say good luck. We're right in there actually physically setting the things up for you, getting them in motion, getting your phone ringing, and then helping you in that process of taking the calls and being effective in that moment, because that's where the rubber really meets the road, is in that initial conversation. How effective are you in that moment? So the implementation is all about getting you from here to there as fast as possible. So
we're getting a few people asking questions. Do you have scripts for the first call conversation? Tell you what, anybody who signs up, who joins our community today, anybody who calls in today, what we'll do is we'll share with you our recording. I think it's like 10 hours of recording from past coaching calls about all the scripts and role play dialogues. And for anybody who joins today, we'll just email that out to you as an MP3 link as part of your onboarding package. That being said, every Tuesday we offer support. We do trainings around scripts and dialogues every single Tuesday. Again, the one thing, guys, and this is me independently just as Andre, the one thing I loved about ProQuest when I first started working with them years and years ago with my real estate business is that how much support there was. It wasn't just like a typical software company where it's like, hey, here's software, here's 3 short 5-minute onboarding videos, have at it. It was what's going on in your market personally. Gary, I remember Gary called me 3 times, I think in the first 2 weeks, just checking in with me, making sure that I had things rolling and cranking and I was generating leads. Like that kind of service to me was amazing compared to what I was used to, right? The salespeople are always calling you, but the support people are, you're leaving voicemails for support. That's a typical experience. And the reason I fell in love with ProQuest so much is because it's completely different, completely backwards from that. Let's see here. Some other questions coming in. What was the 800 number I am attending while traveling? That 800 number you can dial is 1-800-959-6550. 1-800.
That's the demo line
Yeah.
referencing, but let's give them our actual live number if they want to call us with some questions, that type of thing too.
Sure. Go ahead and give them the number you want then, Gary.
Yeah, on the demo line there, if whoever asked that question was writing it down, the extension you want to enter is 1001 to listen to the recorded automated version of it. If you want to talk to us, and we'd love to have a conversation with you, that's what it's really all about. It's having a conversation and finding out about your business and how this will fit within the context of it. We'd be more than happy to answer whatever questions you might have. You can just call us at 1-800-959-3959. and we'll be happy to, schedule a time to have a conversation with you and kind of do a deep dive and find out what's going on in your business and how this would fit together specifically with what you're doing.
Yep. And another question I have here is, does this work with Mac Pro Computer? Our software is online. It's in the cloud. It's on the internet. So yeah, just it's browser based. So it's not something you have to download onto your computer. It's cloud based. It's browser based. So yeah, it'll work off any system you have. Can you get a local number with extensions? No, we stick to 800 number because local numbers tend to typically get.
Hey,
go ahead.
Hey, Andre.
Yeah.
We don't provide local numbers, but our system's capable of local numbers.
Okay.
We give you an 800 number, and if you have a local number that you would like to forward into the system, you can do that, and it'll actually carry out the same functionality. Statistically speaking, there's no difference between a local number and an 800 number as to the number of inquiries you're going to get. It simply is. It used to be back in the day, maybe 10 years ago, 800 numbers made a difference because they were toll-free and people didn't want to pay long-distance charges. Well, most people are on flat-rate long-distance charges anymore anyway, so they're not as concerned about that sort of thing. So statistically speaking, there really is no difference. We use the toll-free platform because one thing about the caller IDing function for capturing the information is its automatic number identification. It can't be blocked. So one of the things that's really cool about that is in the listing presentation, it makes a killer listing presentation. Oh my goodness. You tell the seller to attempt to block, you hit *67 to block the number, and then you demo it and you show them the number you just captured that they tried to block. It's pretty cool. It's very cool. I mean, there's a lot of nuances, a lot of different very powerful ways you can use this. But back to your question of local number versus toll-free number, you can if you choose to. It doesn't matter, though. I would suggest just using our toll-free number because toll-free versus local, again, statistically, we let data drive our marketing decisions, and across the board, it's a dead heat. There is no difference in the number of calls you're going to get.
Question we just had, where do I sign up? You guys sign up at proquesttechnologies.com/order, and I'll leave that link up there on the page, but it's proquesttechnologies.com/order. It's a simple order form, and as soon as you fill that out and click, and process it, then you'll be in, and we're going to get to work with you. For the graveyard, another question. For the graveyard strategy, do you suggest approaching busier agents or agents that don't seem to be doing much? For me personally, if there's an agent that walked by me, I grab them and talk to them about it. It didn't matter, right? Because there's no way for you to know which agent has dead leads, dead databases, whatever's going on. For me, it was just a numbers game. Talk to as many agents as I could around my office and see who'd be willing to let me work their leads. Plus, for me, what I had kind of going for me is I was kind of like, the younger guy, hungry. And so they were just like, oh, yeah, just let him work my database. He's paying his dues. What they didn't realize is the strategy I had would be pulling, for sale with just 3 graveyard databases would be pulling 4 houses sold in 3 listings in the first few months. So that was, but again, that was just my strategy and something that I knew. But I would approach all the agents you could talk to. Question here, Gary, I want you to answer this one. I have a question about when an ad says call for recorded info and price. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems they don't get additional info or price until they're forwarded to us. Do people feel misled and become angry or annoyed by the ad not being clear? That's actually a really good question we get a lot, and I'll let Gary answer it.
Yeah. If you answer the call improperly, yeah, they can. But the key is how you answer the call. Quite frankly, you won't have any of those issues. You could take 100 of these calls and not experience any pushback whatsoever, provided you answer the call correctly. See, the reason we're able to get 90% of prospects through to a live conversation is we are leveraging expectations. The prospect's listening to a recorded message. They hear, would you like current pricing for this property? If so, say yes. They're thinking the system's going to get them pricing. So when they say yes and the agent comes on, you as the agent come on the line, you have to answer the call exactly the same way every single time. And it's, hi, this is Gary. Which property are you calling for pricing on today, please? And this will happen 20 out of 20 times. The prospect will go, oh, because guess what? They're surprised, but it lasts all of about 1 second long because they instantly transition because their thought was, system's going to get me pricing. Now they got a live body. Oh, and then they go, oh, okay, I get it. you're my pricing. And then the way you handle that call is critical, because again, they'll go, and they'll stutter and stammer a little bit. They go, okay. Well, we were listening to the recorded message about 123 Elm Street, and we were wondering what it was priced at. Oh, okay. Well, great. And the key in this moment is you've got to have a customer service tonality, no salesiness to it at all. If you start to say, "Hi, I'm Susie salesperson," immediately they're gone. Okay, they just hang up, because nobody wants to talk to the salesperson in that moment. They want someone to serve them and be of service. So it's customer service tone, and it's, again, "Hi, this is Gary. Which property are you calling for pricing on today, please?" That will not trigger a sales defense 100 out of 100 times. The prospect will simply go, "Oh, okay, well, we were listening to this, wondered what was priced." Okay, great. Well, while I'm getting you that information, it'll take me just a second to pull up that information. Would you mind if I ask? We like to keep track of this sort of thing, and we're wondering what was it caused you to call about Elm Street? What interested you most about that home? Now let them talk.
And at that point, the prospect just starts talking, and you let them talk.
Yeah, and the key here is how you open up that dialogue at that point. And this is one of the things Andre was mentioning when the one question came about scripting. We're far more than scripts and dialogues. Okay, scripts and dialogues are just the starting point. We actually go into a counterintuitive training process that teaches you a methodology of how to ask the right questions to lead prospects to open up to you. You have to get past their initial skepticism and sales resistance barriers. And the way we do that is we start off the call with no salesiness whatsoever. We use a very low-key customer service tone. We have the right language. We ask questions. We reverse the conversation to them, and we gently get them to open up. And with the right series of questions, you can extend these calls 5, 10, 15 minutes and get to a place where you hit a threshold moment where that prospect exhales and begins to trust you. And then there's a point somewhere within 3, 4, 5 minutes into it, they realize you're a salesperson, or I mean a realtor, but at that point they're okay with it because of the way you engaged and the way you treated them when they came through. So will they get upset with you because they thought it was an automated message? No, not if you answer the phone right. If you botch it up, I guarantee that you could probably get a few people to get upset with you. But the fact is, if you handle it correctly, 19 times out of 20, you're going to get a person on the other end that thanks you for being of service to them. 1 out of 20, you're going to get somebody that, well, I shouldn't say that's probably a little bit more than that. We all know we're in the world of sales, okay? And people out there can be rude to salespeople. It's just part of the game. If you don't have the thick enough skin to handle that, you probably shouldn't be in sales. But the fact is, if you handle the calls well, most of the time, the vast majority of the time, they're very warm, engaging conversations that open up. And I can tell you this, from an effectiveness standpoint, this beats the crap out of interrupting somebody in the middle of their dinner on an outbound basis. Make a few cold calls today and interrupt some people in the middle of dinner, and then contrast it with this. It's night and day. This thing is an absolute dream compared to that. And I've got agents that are killing it, just killing it, when they take these conversations and they engage people effectively. Got a client in Philadelphia, a guy named Bill McCormick, took 57 calls and turned them into 10 closings. 10 closings. I defy anybody that's listened to this call or listens to any of our calls to ever have that kind of a conversion rate with cold leads that are generated from your marketing.
Yeah, or that you're buying online or et cetera, right? And then you're chasing them and prospecting
or you're talking
them.
into their voicemail.
Yeah, exactly, talking to the voicemail.
So I'm sorry if I got a little worked up there. Are they offended? No, they're not. Handle the call correctly, and 20 out of 20 times they'll treat you like a professional.
The other thing too is that when Gary was saying about scripts and dialogues, is that we're so much more than scripts and dialogues. The one thing that we focus on teaching and training and educating and sharing is not just things you say in specific situations, but the concepts behind how and why you would say things or not say things, so that in situations where you've never heard something before, you're still able to very smoothly and efficiently and effectively address it because you understand the why behind it, not just the tactics of the what and the how itself, right? You understand the why. A couple other questions.
The psychological path you're taking them.
Right.
And that's the key to everything you're teaching here, Andre. You're doing a masterful job of teaching the email, the Lazarus lead method, how to generate leads from the old dead leads. It's really the psychology of engagement. It's how to humanize what agents have been dehumanizing over the last 10 years. They've been automating everything to death, and prospects know the game. Okay, they don't want to be treated like a cold drip email. They want to be engaged with in a warm, human, connecting way, and the psychology with which you approach that has to be in alignment. And we'll show you how to do all that. That's one thing about what we're doing here is when somebody asks about call capture or how does this compare or this and that and the other, well, it doesn't, because we're much more involved. We're going to see to it that you experience success with this. We're not going to hand you a box of stuff and say good luck. Okay, so it's one of those where we're really passionate about getting in there and helping you dial this thing in a tight, effective way that produces the call with quality marketing, funnels them through the technology to create a live conversation. Then we're going to teach you to be lethal in that moment, to where you're able to get face-to-face and create meaningful conversations that lead to appointments that ultimately create client relationships that turn into closings, because that's the name of the game. It's not how much technology, it's not how much marketing you got, it's how many relationships are you building and how many commission checks are going to result from that. And that's what we're all about. We're really going to get in there and help you master each phase of this incrementally over time.
Another question that's coming here is there a database included with membership?
A CRM, no. We have our lead portal is very contact centric. So it integrates, and you can push these leads to top producer or wherever if you've already got a CRM that you have in place. It is one of those things where future iterations of this may include that. It is one of the things where in the evolution of this, we've always felt it's better to integrate with what agents already have in the way of a CRM as opposed to having them shift gears and have to load everything into our system. However, for those who want to get out of what they're in, ultimately at some point we're probably going to go down that path. But we are very, contact-centric and very easy to integrate with whatever you might be using. Right now, we have full integration with Top Producer, obviously the biggest one out there. But
another question we have is, what happens if I can't pick up the phone call from the 800 number call?
Great question. The system itself, obviously that's a reality in real estate. Sometimes there are some non-negotiable positions you're in that you can't answer the phone. You're in a listing presentation. You're in a closing. You're showing a home. You want to be in the moment with your client. You can't disconnect from that and answer a call. Our system, it gives the caller an opportunity to leave a voicemail. It says, I'm sorry that information is currently not available. Would you like to leave a voicemail? If so, say yes. And we'll get about 1 out of 10 that'll leave a voicemail. The rest of them are captured. You have the lead data to be able to follow up. Again, that's a slippery slope. All lead generation out there is coming under pressure from the voicemail battle we run into on an outbound basis. But everything is still captured, and you still at least do have some opportunity to engage and attempt to reach out to those folks that you're not able to answer the call. So all leads are captured. We're going to just get as many of them through to you for a live conversation as possible right while the prospect's interested. But that's a very good question, very perceptive.
Another question that Manny asked was, are you compatible with all CRMs? And like Gary said, for any CRM that we might not be compatible with, because it captures all that information, you can just copy that information over into your CRM real quick, and then you've got them in your CRM system. This is about
export everything.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you can just export everything out of our system into a CVS file and then import it into anything you're using. We have full integration with Top Producer, but it's like these other ones. Again, we're working towards a little bit more of that. That's after the conversation.
Right.
To us, a lead is not a lead until you've had a meaningful conversation with a prospect. That's a lead. Someone who actually wants you to follow up with them, that's what we call a lead. And so the CRM side of it is actually after the fact. However, we will be addressing those things going forward and being more aggressive in helping down that path.
But again, for the interim, you can just export in Excel. And obviously, again, the thing we're doing is instead of the vanity metric of instead of saying I have 100 leads, what we're focused on is you have 10 strong intent, high probability prospects who have spoken with you who want to do business with you. You would already naturally be doing something with that information about them anyways, putting it into somewhere. So it's not like it's creating more work. We stay lean and mean on doing what we do best and what we do unique and different than anyone else, which is not helping you manage the leads with our system, but helping you actually talk to, for the first time, the people who are serious about buying or selling. An interesting question, Gary. I think you'll appreciate this one and get a chuckle out of it, and then, of course, answer it. Question from somebody, do you have any idea of how soon we can get results if we start tomorrow?
It's entirely dependent upon how rapidly you put your shoulder to the wheel and take this and run with it. I mentioned it earlier in the webinar, we've had a client that wrote a contract in less than 12 hours on our system. Is that a common experience? No, it's the only one I can actually recall. I've had many occasions, like Andre's, where he posted leads on, or posted listings on Craigslist and was showing property the very next day. So the key to how fast can you be banking commission checks, there's a whole lot of moving parts between here and there, but as far as velocity, I'll give you a general framework, okay? From the moment you sign up, we get your system up and running, usually the same day. If given the afternoon hours of today, it'd probably be tomorrow. We get your marketing package out to you, FedEx, you get that in 3-4 days. We set up your implementation call very quickly. So within 7 to 10 days, you have everything in motion for the top 3 strategies. You should be generating somewhere in the neighborhood of, 8 to 12 leads per listing per month is one of sort of the entry-level bars we set as a metric. This is a target you want to be hitting. If you're not, we've got to get in there and help you get to that place. So it's one of those where how fast can you get there? Again, it's entirely dependent on the focused energy you apply to that. Many of our clients who get out of the gate with this really aggressively, by 30 days, they're in full motion. They're in a sprint. They're at 25 to 45 calls, inbound calls a week, like Andre was experiencing. They're showing property. They're building a pipeline. They're building a database of real leads, people they've had meaningful conversations with, and the momentum can be very robust within a 30-day window. But we have some that take it at a bit more of a measured pace. So how quickly? If you're really ready to step to the plate and put on your running shoes, we can get you interacting with viable prospects within a matter of in some cases hours. So the answer to that is, in a very candid way, is it depends on the energy being applied to it. But we'll run as fast as you want to run with it.
If you haven't picked up already from our emails, guys, we don't just tell you the things that you sometimes want to hear, like plug-and-play strategies and things that work, but we're also the guys that will tell you things you don't want to hear sometimes, right? So, or the way I say it is that there's no silver bullet magic to anything we do. We've discovered that typically doesn't work. It's all about what systems and strategies work and how much effort and work you put into it. So it's all common sense. But you always find that we're very
candid about
very candid with you guys about what things takes. Just kind of scroll through here for any more questions. I know we've had a few. We have a whole bunch, but some of them we've already answered. So I just got to filter through and read the ones that we haven't answered.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody for being on the webinar today. We've had a really good audience here today, and a lot of great participation, a lot of very perceptive questions.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think we've just gotten about through all the questions here that I see. I mean, we got a whole bunch of them. Guys, if you have any questions for us, you can always email us. You can email me. You can email Gary. You can email me at andre@proquesttechnologies.com, Andrey. Gary can give out his email address if he wants it too.
It's the same. It's Gary@proquesttechnologies.com, so you feel free.
Yeah, for any other questions you guys might have. Ernest asks, will this also work for high-end properties? Very most definitely, yes. I mean, you're just in a, especially for, go ahead, Gary.
Let me answer that one. I've got a client in Southern California that sold the most expensive home in Glendale, California the last 3 years in a row off of a lead from this approach. So, yeah. People are people, even those that buy multi-million-dollar houses.
Somebody asked me to spell out your email address, so I'm just going to type it in.
Okay, right on.
Gary@ProQuest Technologies, guys, right there.
I don't want to be too flippant with that last question. Actually, luxury is kind of a unique market in some respects. There's a level of sophistication there with clients that it's an understandable question that the agent would ask, does this work with high-end properties? Yes, it definitely works with high-end properties. One thing I am an advocate for with high-end properties is a little bit more polish to some of the different marketing channels, because your sellers expect that are in that strata. Like Lisa's brochure would not fly with somebody who's got an $8 million home. You know, it just wouldn't. So you have to. And that's the fellow who sold the most expensive home in Glendale 3 years in a row. He's got some very nice, very sharp-looking marketing materials that he uses this within in a very effective way. He just doesn't lose track of the fundamentals. He doesn't miss the point that you can't bury the call to action in pretty pictures. You have to actually entice the prospect to respond to you. See, marketing is what produces the inquiry. The old attention, interest, desire, action formula. You know, you've got to get their attention, provoke their interest, build desire, and prompt action. That formula is fundamental and forever. It's because human beings are human beings. Marketing is what produces the response. So in high-end marketing, you can't let the imagery swallow up the call to action. You have to have the call to action still be very clear and prominent so that the prospect, when they see it, it triggers that response we're looking for and gets them to pick up the phone, call, say yes for pricing, and have a conversation with you. So again, I felt like I was being a little bit flippant to that. It's one of those where sometimes, you know, the different questions, I apologize if I came off as flippant. It's one of those that, again, the high-end prospect, there's a sophistication level that I respect the desire to serve that in a way that's going to be effective for you. But this is fundamental. This is based on human nature, and human nature spans from low end to high end. And another thing, like we mentioned, the Craigslist strategies, it's kind of funny. I get agents who get a little bit of an attitude sometimes about Craigslist being low end. I've had $1 million plus homes sold over Craigslist from leads that were generated on Craigslist. So it's not, again, these tools, these systems, what we're showing you, they're fundamental. This is, you know, this is chop wood, carry water stuff. I mean, we use some you know, some very bleeding edge technology to accomplish the objective of getting you through to that first time conversation. But the real fundamentals that drive it are timeless. And if we stay focused on those fundamentals and use technology to forward that in, we'll always be successful. It's when we take our eye off the ball and start chasing technology that it becomes a problem. So, but again, a little bit long-winded. I apologize if I'm bending everybody's ear on that one, but I didn't want to dismiss the luxury question quite so quickly.
Another question was, my husband and I are realtors. Can we work from different computers at the same time while running your program?
Oh, yeah, it does allow multiple logins. So if you're on two separate computers and you were accessing the system and doing things, what you're going to find with our system is you're not going to be spending a lot of time messing with technology.
Yeah.
You're going to spend far more time talking with prospects, which is where the rubber really meets the road. We're going to keep you out of technology. Quite frankly, that's been our goal since we got into this 18 years ago, was to simplify the technology piece so that agents weren't wasting their time chasing that, so that they were having meaningful conversations with buyers and sellers who wanted, you know, who could be part of their, you know, who could do business with them. That's what real estate is really all about. Real estate's this, again, it's fundamentally always and forever going to be a relationship-driven business, and we want to keep you out of the technology pieces of it. Not only to streamline and keep you in a more higher dollar productive position where you're earning commissions based on everything you're doing, versus every time you access a system and you're doing something technical, you're not earning commissions. You're administering a system. So we're going to make that smooth. We're going to make it quick. We're going to make it easy so that you can be focused on those things that produce dollars and build your pipeline. But yes, you can both log in.
Yeah. The other thing too is you can also assign team extensions. So you can, and this is our system here again, right? You got 1,000 extensions, but you can assign team members like buyers agents or whomever, and then you can assign a block of 100 extensions to one of your agents and give them access to log in, but only for their portion of it. But then you, as the team manager on the back end, you can track all the calls that they're getting. where those calls have come from, how long the calls have lasted. You can call them out on, hey, you haven't been answering all the calls that have been coming. You've only been answering 1 out of 20 calls, right? Like, what's going on? The calls are only lasting 50 seconds, right? Et cetera. And then also, of course, all the continuous training that we provide, continuous, just masterminds and group coaching that we provide. So you can plug all your team members into it as well. Question we're getting here: how many minutes are included in the 800 number? Well, I've never run out of.
It's unlimited.
Yeah, it's unlimited. There's no cap on the minutes you can have for a conversation, but you can apply as many. So back to what I was saying, you can assign extensions to different team members. And again, the coaching that comes along with it helps to not have all the pressure on you, and that's what you get in the community. You get our system, but then you also get the weekly coaching calls with John Gualtieri and Gary Elwood. It's a format like this over the phone on Tuesdays, right? And they get your team members can plug in. Then you've got the monthly live marketing Q&A call with us. Of course, you've also got all the fast start resources, and then the one thing I didn't mention today is you also get the bonus of 10 hours of let's call it rejection role play recordings, where John Gualtieri will take you. There's about 10 hours of training on every kind of objection that comes in and rejection that comes in from prospects over the phone, in person, listing appointments, buyers, etc. How to handle this? What's the best way? Okay.
Well,
and
let me add a little bit to that. Those role plays and that sales training. I've been in sales since I was 19 years old, almost 30 years now, and I've been to every kind of sales training imaginable. And I can tell you from the experiences I've had, that is some of the most brilliantly done role-playing and examples that is so hyper-specific to agents' everyday, day-to-day activities. He role-plays out these various scenarios that you guys experience on a daily basis, and he does just a masterful job of showing you how a 12th degree black belt in these skills would handle those situations, and then he actually analyzes why he approached it the way he did. It really is some of the best stuff I've ever heard, and quite frankly, in our 18 years of doing this, it's some of the best training material it is the best training material we've ever published.
Awesome. Kerry Lopez and Ernesto Diaz are saying that they're looking forward to starting with our program. Thank you. Oh, well, you're very welcome, guys, and thank you. We're looking forward to it. Yeah, another question here. Where does the call go if you can't pick up?
That's the one we mentioned earlier. It goes back into the system and gives them an opportunity to leave a voicemail. And all the information is still captured, so you have the lead data to be able to make an outbound attempt at reaching them. But again, just focus on high priority of answering the calls live, because your best opportunities are going to come there, and you're going to convert far more in that moment.
Question from Bethany White. Do you find message to text is effective? We've been thinking about it.
Message to text.
Yeah.
If she's talking about text lead generation, our mobile voice routing suite has texting lead generation, but it's quite frankly the only reason we have it is so that you can use it in a listing presentation as a listing presentation tool. It's not a very effective lead generator. We've tested recorded info next to texting in the most tech-heavy markets of the country, like Seattle and Southern California, Denver, Austin, the real tech hubs of the world. And recorded info still outposts texting by more than 11 to 1, and even in those markets. And the reason comes down to prospects, when they drive up in front of a listing or they see something, they're universally always going to take the path of least resistance. And the path of least resistance is tap in 10 digits, put it up to their ear, just like they have all their lives since they were little toddlers playing with a Fisher-Price phone. We're just conditioned to do that. So tapping 10 digits and listening to a recording is the path of least resistance, and that's what prospects will take. So texting lead generation compared to recorded info, this blows it away. And plus, the other thing is, if you get a texting lead, you're still back in that voicemail battle game. It's an outbound reach. You got to reach out via outbound call to reach them, and you're talking into voicemail 9 out of 10 times. So you're back on that same treadmill with a text captured lead. I hope that's the question she was asking. Can you ask her for clarity?
Yeah, I mean, she hears you too.
Yeah, I guess.
Bethany, if the question, Bethany, if the question didn't, okay, here she's asking more. Did you answer my question about this webinar is recorded? I missed the first half. Gary, you got it right. Okay, so you got her answer right. Yeah, we recorded.
Awesome.
We recorded the webinar. We're going to get the replay out to you guys next week. I had someone else ask a question earlier. Where's the replay links for all the webinars we've done over the last few weeks? There isn't any one like URL you go to. Eventually that will be the case. Right now we're still going to have to put them up individually. We haven't done that just yet because, again, we're fussing around with some of our tech and dialing in what platform we're going to have that all on. But once that's figured out, hopefully by like middle of next week, we can get that to you guys. Any more questions here? Again, guys, from the heart, yeah, I think you get a feeling for who we are and just how authentic and real we are here, right? It's just we are who we are. We believe in figuring out what works and what doesn't, making it happen. Join us here today at proquesttechnologies.com/order. Would love to work with more of you guys and have you join our community. That being said, we'll still continue to put out the Thursday webinars for you guys, for everybody out in our community. We just want to help everybody out there, you know, create more financial freedom and get away from the things that don't work and keep us stuck and trapped. Probably more so just because Gary had a lot of bad experience with sales in his early days, and myself here too. So just knowing that pain, we hate and thinking the thought of anyone having to go through that. Thank you so much for these webinars. They are great. You are very welcome. Great program. Thanks. You are welcome. Getting just a stream of thank yous from people here. So, Gary, unless you have anything to, yeah, thank you. And Gary, unless you have anything to add, I'd say it's time just to kind of wrap it up here.
We've covered a lot of ground. The main thing is just, you know, we're here to help you guys. We appreciate you spending time with us today. You know, you took 2.5 hours. This one went really long, and you took a lot of your valuable time to share it with us today. And we don't take that lightly. We really do appreciate you carving out that time in your day to spend it with us. And if there's anything we can do to help you, we're here to help.
Yeah, and we'd love for you guys to take the next step. Again, so proquesttechnologies.com/order. Go there right now if you like what we've got for you and you feel like it's a good fit, and you obviously get a sense of what we're all about and how we approach business building and real estate, then just join us today. We'd love to, you know, and continue that past 2.5 hours with you here on the call today, to working with you on a continuous basis and making you another one of our success stories. So with that, guys, it's been awesome hanging out with you and sharing. We'll probably do another webinar next week, Thursday, probably same time, same bat channel, and looking forward to meeting and hanging out with and working with anybody who does decide to join in today, and sending you guys that extra bonus and those onboarding package to get you starting quick. Question here. I'm signing up right now. Is the shipping extra? Quick, Gary.
Yeah, there's a shipping charge. It's a small. The package we send you is very substantial.
Yeah, it's a box. It's not like a. Yeah, it's not like the box we send. It's not like a envelope. It's an actual box. So. Yeah,
there's quite a bit there, but yeah,
cool.
There is. There's I think it's $19.95 shipping charge or something.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, again, you see the URL there. It'll ship within 3 to 4 business days, right, Gary? I think it's 3 to 4 business days. Yeah, it ships within 3 to 4 business days. You'll have the box, but the software itself in your account for that will be set up, you know, today. And we'll get you the MP3 link to John's top 10 hours of recording today or tomorrow, real fast for you, for those who join right now today. You'll have that right away, and you'll have the implementation call scheduled. We'll get in touch with you to schedule it either today or tomorrow and have that scheduled. So again, within 7 to 10 business days, you'll be full tilt running, and at that point, it's just how much effort you want to put into it, because we've definitely got the resources for you, regardless of what kind of marketing you're doing or targeting. You know, FSBO or expireds or Craigslist or classifieds or graveyard leads from other people's, you know, graveyard pipelines. But however it is you want to grow it, we'll figure out the way for you to grow it, and we'll make it happen. So, all right, guys, take care, and we'll see you guys next time. Have a great week and a great weekend.
Yeah, take care, guys.
One last question here. Is the software you're talking of downloadable? My laptop doesn't have a CD drive. It's an online software. You don't download anything, and it doesn't require a CD. It's all online in your internet browser, so no downloading required.